The following program is an MLWRadio.com production.
Ooh, yeah, ho, 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 and a Merry Christmas. Yeah, if you're freaking out about your Christmas bills, don't put your Christmas this year on those credit cards. Don't do it. Consolidate those bills at SaveWithBruce.com. That's right. Don't put Christmas on your credit cards. And don't make any payments till February. That's right. SaveWithBruce.com can help you with your mortgage, and you don't even need perfect credit. So make this Christmas the best Christmas ever. Oh yeah, dig it? Cause I'm thinking that the only way to do that is to go visit SaveWithBruce.com. Get into the home of your dreams, cause they can help you with the right mortgage and save you money. That's right, dig it? Consolidate all those bills into one easy low payment. Yeah, but you gotta act right now. It's fast, it's easy. You too can own a home with no money down. We help veterans too. Go to SaveWithBruce.com right now and lower your monthly payments. Oh yeah, SaveWithBruce.com. NMLS number 65084. Equal housing lender.
What happened? WHW Monday.
Tony Schiavone.
Conrad Thompson.
Hot tag.
Talking about the great years of World Championship Wrestling.
Suckers got to know.
The NWA.
Tommy Young.
And Jim Crockett Promotions. And now, let's go to the ring. And here's your co-host. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to What Happened When? Monday on the MLW Radio Network, and of course, the man you're really here to hear from. Here he is, the voice of professional wrestling below the Mason-Dixon line, Tony Schiavone. What's going on, man? How are you?
Conrad, what's going on, buddy? Hi, everybody. It's great to be with you for another week of What Happened When. We've had so much fun since we've started doing this back in January. Holy smokes.
Time flies.
Doesn't it fly? We're heading to a brand new year, and we're heading to 1 year of What Happened When. Going back again, the anniversary of some of the memorable dates of WCW. And, as we've done this over the past couple of weeks and past couple of months, my good friend, my memory is slowly coming back to me.
Well, I appreciate that. I know our fans do too. We've shifted gears here a little bit on the show, and we're watching the old shows together, and I feel like having a visual aid helps jog the old memory. What do you think?
What? Who's it? What? Where are we here?
Yeah, when you turn 60, I hear that your hearing is the second thing to go. Lois knows about the first, I'm sure.
She doesn't know anything about the first.
It went a long time ago, too, I hear.
It sure did.
Well, and so did Starrcade, man. Your Thanksgiving tradition with Starrcade, it's back. This Thursday is Thanksgiving, of course, and we want to bring back your new Thanksgiving tradition. So enjoy Starrcade 87 with us. It's coming to you live right here on WHWMonday.com. Tune in this Thanksgiving at 5 p.m. Eastern and relive the great action when Jim Crockett Promotions presented Chi-Town Heat. We've got Dusty Rhodes, the Rock and Roll Express, Sting, Lex Luger, Dr. Death, the Midnight Express, the Road Warriors, the Horsemen, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion Ron Garvin, and of course, the Nature Boy Ric Flair inside of a steel cage this Thursday. What's old is new again with your new Thanksgiving tradition, Starrcade 87. It's this Thursday, Thanksgiving at 5 p.m. Eastern right here at WHWMonday.com. And I've got to say, Tony, I'm looking forward to this. This feels like the most fun podcast we may have ever done.
We're going to have a lot of fun with it. And if you go back in memory and think about how much Starrcade meant to us and meant to this company, it's a big moment. It really is. It's a big moment for a lot of reasons. Some of those reasons for Jim Crockett Promotions and what that time was the NWA, Conrad, are really bad memories or bad reasons. And it was the big blow. I really think that, and we'll talk about it when we get there, but the big blow that really took Jim Crockett Promotions out of business.
Well, we're going to relive the great show that it was. And of course, we're going to talk about the shenanigans with the business and the way kind of battling with Vince McMahon and buying out the UWF and just all the positives and all the negatives. We'll examine, but we're going to make this Thanksgiving fun. So put the turkey leg down, fire up the WWE Network, press mute, and let Tony and I make you laugh. And we're going to do that today with World War III, 1997. So if you haven't already, find that on the WWE Network. We're going to tell you when to press play in just a moment. WrestleMania's biggest weekend party is coming to Bourbon Street, and it's happening Friday, April 6th. There's plenty of time to get there after the Hall of Fame, so don't miss an all-inclusive all-night party hosted by Big Sexy Kevin Nash and over 30 other wrestling stars. Enjoy unlimited drinks all night long at the Bourbon Cowboy on Bourbon Street. Through Black Friday, you can purchase your tickets for 20% off at pwrshow.com. That's pwrshow.com. This is going to be a great time, and it's one of the only wrestling events taking place on Bourbon Street the entire WrestleMania weekend. You can even go VIP and get access to the balcony where you can throw beads and have a private meet and greet with Diesel himself, Big Daddy Cool, Kevin Nash. If you buy your tickets this weekend to the event, you'll complete your WrestleMania weekend. And hey, use our special code SLAPDICK for an extra 5% off. That's right, SLAPDICK for an extra 5% off. This event's going to sell out just as it has the last 6 years, so get your tickets right now and you'll get to party with Kevin Nash and others. You never know who's going to show up. Fluffy the Comedian has shown up for the last 3 years straight. Tickets are limited, so hurry and get yours today for a WrestleMania weekend party on Bourbon Street with Kevin Nash and over 30 other pro wrestling stars. Purchase those tickets right now at pwrshow.com. That's pwrshow.com. The event ends at 2 a.m., but the bar doesn't close. So you never know. This party could go all night long. Get your tickets today at pwrshow.com. That's pwrshow.com. And remember, 20% off if you order before Black Friday and an extra 5% off by using our temporary code SLAPDICK. It's the WrestleMania weekend party of the year. Get those tickets right now, pwrshow.com. We've decided to do something different this week, Tony. Was this fun for you to develop?
Fun for me to develop?
Well, you know, the little intro, the countdown, our special little thing we're going to roll out. People are going to be smart enough about what we're talking about in a minute, but in my head, this was not something you did without protest.
You know what? It was surprisingly easy
really
to get this done. Yeah. And usually things are not surprisingly easy with this person, if you know what I mean.
Well, let's kind of, let's smarten everybody up. No more Blues Clues. We're going to go ahead and give you a countdown now, and then you're going to watch World War III with us.
All right. For all you slapdicks out there, when I say go, you hit the button that says play, okay? All right, here we go. Shut up, Tony. 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, thank you for that countdown, madam. And it's the apocalypse, Conrad.
We have liftoff.
It kind of looked like a video game here, didn't it?
It's the end of WCW is what it looks like.
Yeah, it's foretelling the end of WCW. And I know what you're going to say. Who booked this shit?
Yep.
Let me say this about this. Looking back on it now, look at the ring.
It's smoking. Look at that.
Yeah. It sucked, but you got to try something, Conrad.
How much do you
right?
think this cost to shoot, though? Like the whole video?
This was like $50,000.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how dumb is that? Imagine how many pay-per-views you have to sell in order to just pay for that video.
Yeah, right. Maybe it's part of the production budget, and maybe they met their budget. I don't know. Now, we were bleeding money at this time. Everybody knows it.
Oh, not 97.
Hey.
Oh, look at there. There's that pyro.
There's the pyro. Take a look at the set, and we're coming to you live from the Palace of Auburn Hills. Woohoo! Woohoo! I'm getting pumped up for it again. Aren't you?
Oh my gosh. Listen to you.
No, you're not. Okay. Everybody's having a great time.
I feel like we've covered a lot of pay-per-views here in Michigan. Have we not?
Yeah, we have. Look at the set, man. Wow.
Spared no expense.
The set is covered like a Humvee would be. Heenan to the right, to my left, is not taller than me. And I do know that reviews as an announce crew about doing the show. And the reason we did was because Mike Tenay was with us. You see.
Mike Tenay, according to the rumor and innuendo, is done with professional wrestling. Is that a sad deal for you to know that he's done for good?
Yeah, it is. Mike put his heart and soul in wrestling, and I'm sure his time at the TNA Impact, or whatever you want to call it now, probably was not a good one.
I don't think anybody had a good experience there.
Yeah, it's a bad way to go out. I do know I wanted to talk to Mike on my radio show that's on 92.9 The Game in Atlanta on Wednesday nights, and Mike said, no, Tony, I'm just going to lay low. I hope you'll respect that. And so that's that. But Heenan, to me here, doesn't look like he wants to be here.
No, and through the commentary, I felt like not only did he not want to be there, but I wondered if he was drinking this day or if he had just phoned it in, because there's a lot of things he says that just feel very out of place. And you can tell by the way he says that he's very proud of it. It just didn't make much sense here. This is not Heenan's best performance here.
No, it's not. And I don't think it's drinking here. I think it's the fact that he was, by 1997, pretty put out with WCW. It didn't take long for him to lose his affection for the business and his excitement for the business, but ready to go. Oh my, what a combination. Blood runs cold. Glacier. Ooh, look at them eyes on Glacier. And Ernest Miller, the cat. Yes, sir. Glacier was just a walking clusterfuck, and that's not Ray Lloyd's fault.
How was he? Was he a good guy?
Oh, yeah. He sure was. And he was a school teacher as well. But he was put into this position where he could not follow the amount of money and effort that we put into his videos. It's kind of like that Asian girl who's on the WWE right now. What's her name? Asaka or
yeah, Asuka.
Yeah, Asuka. Yeah, she can't follow that. I don't care what anybody says. All that hype and the build up and the paint and you just can't do that. You get over not by your videos coming in first. You get over by getting over in the ring and then talking, and then they can play videos to enhance what you are. I should book. Damn. That's a great idea.
This match is going to go 9 minutes, and I'm really excited for their opponents. Do you remember who they fought here?
No, I do not.
You're in for a treat. I can tell you did your homework and watched this shit this week. Here we go.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Jimmy Hart, you come over here. You jerk off Ming.
Barbarian and Ming are out here, and these guys were a few different incarnations. Of course, you know, they did some stuff with the Dungeon of Doom. They were the Faces of Fear. They were paired in different ways and had different, attire. These feel like two solid workers who WCW just didn't know exactly what to do, but just knew, hey, they're talented enough for us to find a roster spot for them.
Yeah, there's no question. And in a real world, if this is really a shoot, I don't care how much martial arts you know, these two motherfuckers going to beat the shit out of you.
Meltzer would write, it was fast paced, but not good. The kicks employed by Glacier and Miller looked bad, and the selling by Ming and Barbarian, or lack thereof, didn't help that perception. There was one cool sequence where Miller ran across the ring and basically climbed up Ming's body to the top rope to do a plancha to the floor onto Barbarian. Glacier followed with a pescado on Ming, and the fans were chanting boring. Miller got the hot tag and then nailed Jimmy Hart, allowing Ming to come from behind with a Tongan death grip for the pin. Dud is the rating. I didn't hate this nearly as much as Dave did, but maybe my expectations were a little lower. I didn't expect with these guys for us to see a 5-star Matt Classic.
And not everything's a 5-star Matt Classic. Not only that, you got guys with different styles. And I think what we're seeing here is either Glacier's been told not to sell, or Glacier doesn't have an idea about how to sell, because he just looks he looks what he is, green and stiff in the ring here. Ernest looks a lot better in the ring, and Glacier, great drop kick and a 2 count. I like the fact they were using Jimmy Hart, because Jimmy, as you know, we talk so much about Heenan being the greatest manager ever. Heenan is tremendous and was tremendous, and there's some other ones, but Jimmy Hart to me was good with anybody.
Business is doing great here. 6 days prior to this, you guys set an all-time city record in Cincinnati, drawing 13,877 fans for $222,000 at the gate and nearly $95,000 in merchandise. So it was a big night, and you guys are on fire here.
Well, we're on fire here because of what? NWO,
right?
Hogan, that whole angle. That makes us, Monday Night Wars are really hot and heavy at this time. So that's why we're hot. And wrestling in general, Conrad, is great at this time. We talked about the business being cyclical. This is a good cycle.
And it's a cycle that brings Rick Rude to jump ship. Nitro 6 days prior to this is when he debuts, and they make it very clear that Bret Hart is also coming to join the NWO. And interesting to note, in my research, I found that Sean Morley actually had a tryout match prior to that Nitro. What a maneuver that is by Ernest the Cat. Man, that was right out of a video game.
That's the spot that Meltzer was talking about and was the best spot of the match. And, you know, give Ernest a lot of credit. He can do a lot of things. The Glacier over the top and a great move, and backing Jimmy Hart out, which I don't understand this at all, because what has Jimmy done as far as getting the attention of?
Yeah, it did feel like a heel move. And as he was chasing him down with his wonky contact, all I could think wasn't this guy a substitute teacher? Can you imagine if he was chasing you and he was like, what do you mean you didn't do your fucking homework? Come here, you little shit. It's like the old Mortal Kombat. Get over here. Finish him.
Yeah, that's what it's like. But now the Barbarian goes in and Glacier moves out of the way. And again, he goes back to his karate chops and his kick.
You come over here with those cold hands. You jerk me off.
Pick up. Great team maneuver. Wow.
That's a man and a half to pick him up like that.
You damn right it is. Billy Silverman 1, 2, and a save here by Ernest Miller. And now we see the signs are kind of being fashionable here. And I really think this was the time that, you know, we looked at the Clash of the Champions a week ago. There were basically no signs. But now you go to one of these big pay-per-views, signs, the fans become fashionable to the point to where, well, they've taken a life of their own now in the wrestling business.
I should mention the Nitro prior to this is the match where Sean Morley got a tryout with WCW in a dark match. He would wind up going on over to the World Wrestling Federation and becoming Val Venus. It's hard to imagine there ever being a Val Venus character. What do you think Sean Morley's character may have been had he signed with WCW instead?
Big Dick Hurts, possibly.
Sure.
That would have been a good one.
Speaking of that, Penthouse Magazine actually was writing a story about Nitro at the time. How fired up was Klondike Bill for you guys to be featured in Penthouse?
Well, I think he liked the fact there's a 2 count there. I think he liked the fact they were in Penthouse, but I don't think Klondike ever read any of the stories in Penthouse.
Really? You think he was not much of a reader?
Well, when it came, maybe he would read some things, but when he would pick up a Penthouse, he wouldn't pick it up to read it, if you understand.
This
it was more like pick it up to go. Something like that.
I don't know what to say right now, but it makes me happy that as you made that noise, Barbarian's in the ring.
That's exactly right.
I mean, what are the odds of that?
That was what you were hearing was Easy Way, brother.
So did Klondike Bill need more oil on his unit? Why was it so squeaky? It's like, if the Tin Man jerked off is what it sounded like.
I mean, that's just kind of, that's a sound effect. Okay. And a lot of times the sound effects do not match up with the actual action that they're portraying.
In my head, if Klondike Bill were to actually do that act, I feel like it would be like the old Jack in the Box. I can't believe that
we're in match one and we are off the rails already, guys.
This is what people are listening for, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, Barbarian's in here, and I mean, I gotta feel like he tagged out to me, and he says, "His hands are too cold, brother. You turn.
You come in here right now." Well, we have made him a household word, as well as Tommy Young, a household word. Oh, wow. That is raw power. 1, 2, and he kicked out from that. I don't, man. It seems to me that Ming, who is legit badass and legit one of the great guys of all time, maybe is getting a little frustrated here. Does you get that feeling in this match?
Well, you know, it's hard to say because I never had a good feel for when Haku was happy, you know, like I feel there's a famous shirt from the late 90s. I guess it's the early 2000s. You may have never seen it. The Many Emotions of Ole Anderson. Have you seen that?
I've not.
So it's the exact same picture of Ole 9 times. And it says like happy, sad, pissed off, upset, angry, you know, all the different ones. Well, I feel like that's kind of Ming. Like, I don't know. Is he happy or is he going to eat me? It's kind of the Ming that you saw on television, but obviously not the Ming that we saw. And, it just seems to me, and I don't know. Look, I don't know if Glacier got heat with the boys because of all the build up to his character. Could have been. And it could have been the fact that, you know, I mean, he's given a pretty good fight here, but it just seems to me, and maybe they're just good workers here, I don't know, but it just seems to me a lot of this stuff is pretty tough or pretty stiff from Ming and the Barbarian. Yeah, this whole time I'm thinking he's got to be hoping for a fucking substitute job tomorrow. You know,
exactly.
He's got to hope Mrs. Jenkins calls in and says, "You got to come teach science. I got to get out of here."
Yeah. We'll teach you the Samoan way there, One Eye. He did a pretty good job of selling there. Now watch this. Great belly to back. Very well executed.
No doubt.
And Ray spent a lot of time getting ready for this part. He really did, and give him credit for it. And he did a great job of selling here, I thought, making the hot tag, and here comes Ernie Miller. Whoa, right hand to the side of the head. And a front leg back kick, or is that back leg front kick? And, whoa, you know, Eric used to tell me, you need to know these karate moves. You need to know what a front leg back kick is and a back leg front kick is. And I used to say, Eric, I don't give a fuck, and I don't think anybody else does. But there's a kick right into Ming. Ernest Miller didn't get a good extension that time. And the fans were chanting boring on this.
Yeah, they were not happy. And you can see the finish coming here, and there it is.
Yep. The Tongan death grip. 1, 2, 3.
I got to tell you, if I was a wrestler, is that not the finish you want? You can give it to anybody. It doesn't matter, you know, how big or how small or, you know, whatever the situation is. A fucking nerve hold for a finish, while it may be not the most aesthetically pleasing, is believable, and you can do it to anybody.
Can I interject something here?
Yeah.
Didn't a few months ago you were shitting on the Claw?
Well, yeah, but that's different because one is just grabbing your head like a fucking dumbass. And the other is to, you know, cut off your circulation. Mm-hmm. So if you stop me from breathing, I'll die. If you squeeze my head, you know, I'm going to get a headache.
Let's take a look at some of the moves here. Look at this. You think this is not stiff? Watch this. Bam. Now he let go of him, which is different than just obviously holding the legs. Look at this shoulder breaker. This is one of the great moves of the night, I thought. A lot of great power moves in this match. But it was the Tongan death grip. That's not the finish, guys. Jeez. Who's running replay on this one?
Yeah, they shouldn't have shown the count. That was kind of dumb.
Yeah, that's right. And now, 1, 2, 3. The Tongan death grip, which is a kind of version of the claw, but it's on the throat instead of the head. And
so it's a choke instead of a head massage. All right, here you go.
Yeah, so Hey, so Paige, I'm wondering, I've said a lot of bad things about you and a lot of bad things about Kimberly. Yeah, fuck you, you fat ass. I'm not talking to you, you motherfucker. You said a lot of bad things about me on TV. I know you're a fucking heel announcer. Go fuck yourself, okay? And that's basically how they got along in the backstage area.
Yeah, and Mark Madden is pretty famous for calling Diamond Dallas Page DD me. Do you think that's a fair assessment of Mr. Page?
Yeah, no, I do not. But I do know that Diamond Dallas Page and Mark Madden had a lot of heat with each other. And I often said that Madden, if he got a heat with the boys, the baby faces, then he was doing his job as a heel announcer.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Speaking of getting heat, Glenn Gilberti, who is now a resident of Las Vegas. Whoa, check out Miss Auburn Hills there.
You know, now if we had to, instead of change his music from Disco Fever and Yeah, 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 and we had to change it to be about strip clubs in Vegas, what would it be? 2 for $40. Don't touch her now. Sit at the front bar. $20.
Yeah. Fuck that bitch.
No, you're not allowed to do that.
Okay.
I know it's been a long time since you've been to those places, but you're not allowed to do that.
If you're horny, go to see us. Then you can go to the chicken farm later. Dun, 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 dun. Chicken Ranch. Ever been to the Chicken Ranch?
I don't even know what you're saying right now. What are you saying?
You know, what are you saying?
Chicken Ranch. Is that like a restaurant in Las Vegas?
Yes. Yeah. And it's open on Sundays. Unlike Chick-fil-A.
So I got like breasts and thighs and shit like that.
Boy, do they ever. And now here comes Raven and Perry Saturn. I always liked this kind of cool, come through this fan entrance. It was different.
It was different. And they're doing a gimmick at the time where Raven has not yet signed the contract. He's making his own rules for every match. It's going to be Raven's rules, which means no DQ. He's always doing promos before, just sitting in the corner. This Raven gimmick, I feel like is one of Paul Heyman's best creations from ECW. And obviously maybe it doesn't age the way you might hope it would, but at the time, this was a really cool gimmick.
Really cool gimmick. Perry Saturn could work as well. And what's Disco doing? This is what we're seeing right here is Disco just kind of
trying to pop the boys.
Absolutely. Freestyling. Exactly what he's doing. And there was a lot of freestyling went on in matches. We talk so much about finishes and why did they do this and why did they do that? And we blame the bookers and we blame the committee and we blame whomever, but a lot of the boys were freestyling, doing stuff. Some of it wasn't bad. Some of it was shitty.
Hypothetically speaking, if Klondike Bill were around these days and he knew what Disco was doing out in Vegas, would he be a regular?
He would call Disco to see what he could do for him living in Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't think Klondike would go to Vegas, but he would try to get the hookup.
Oh, so you think maybe Disco has like an underground railroad of adult entertainers and maybe he could direct one to Klondike Bill, like he could dispatch one.
Yeah. It's kind of like all of us in the podcasting world. We all know each other. We all communicate now and then via email. And so it's kind of like the strip club is a kind of another version of podcasters. Wouldn't you say?
Okay. We'll go with that.
Okay. So let's go with that. Perry Saturn. What?
Perry Saturn, you guys are putting over real big here as being a former Army Ranger who had over 100 jumps. And, I thought that was awesome that it got him over as a badass, but I did find it interesting that you would talk about his real military life, but then sort of present him as a heel. Like, doesn't that sort of make him a hero?
In theory, that would, but not everybody who's a hero is a nice guy.
Give us an example.
Well, in the Captain America movie, Captain America is helping in Captain America Civil War. Captain America is helping Bucky, and Bucky had killed a lot of people and done a lot of bad things. So there was a hero that turned bad.
You're still saying English words right now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Do you watch any of the Star Wars movies? No. Okay.
No.
Your heroes do not always have to abide by the rules. As a matter of fact, why do wrestling fans cheer the heels at this moment?
Because they have good taste.
Oh, cheap shot by Saturn. Mickey J, the referee, says, get your ass in the ring. And Saturn is going to lay in on the Disco Inferno here.
Hey, let me mention this to you. Perry Saturn is a guy that Bruce Pritchard once upon a time thought was the most talented of the Radicals. Maybe Chris Benoit was number 1. Perry was number 2. Eddie was 3. And Dean Malenko was number 4. Where would you rank Perry? Would you have Perry above the rest of the fold?
I would have him number 2. I wouldn't put him above Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah. I don't think you can put very many people above Eddie Guerrero. No,
you can't. And it's really even hard to even talk about Chris Benoit during this time. But
we should mention that Perry Saturn is going through a bit of a rough time. And if you can find him on social media, he's got a great project that he's trying to put together, and it would tell his whole life story. It means a lot to him, and we'd like to support that. So I'll find that and tweet it out. So if you can't find Perry, find me at Hey, it's Conrad, and I'll have a link for you so you can lend your support to Perry. And of course you can hear Disco Inferno these days on Keeping It 100 with Conan. Those guys are going to make you laugh every week. So check both of those projects out. I just want to put that over. I couldn't really do that for Barbarian unless you're in the market for referee hand jobs.
Yeah, great move by Disco here. You know, Perry was in real life a pro, good guy, and I wish him nothing but the best. I would like to. I would actually like get in touch with him as well, Conrad. So if you'll help me out with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can make that happen.
To see how he's doing.
I should mention that you guys are doing record business for this. This was the first time you had a house that topped 300,000, and it actually did more than that. You guys brought in more than $400,000 for this show. 407,831. It's a near sellout crowd of 17,128 fans, 15,735 of which actually paid, and over $139,000 in merchandise. This is a huge show, and it's coming off of the prior record, which was literally the month before it, 297,508 out in Las Vegas for Halloween Havoc. So back-to-back record pay-per-view months. It's a big deal for WCW, is it not?
Well, yeah, it's a big deal. And add in how much, do you got a number on the buy rate on that? Add in that. How much was this night a financial boon for us? My God. And then NWO merchandise hopefully was being sold by that time. Knowing us, who knows, right?
Well, yeah, of course, NWO merchandise is being sold, and it does really well. But I did get a report, and I'm sure I'll find it in my notes here in a minute. But at some point, you guys actually had the NWO as the second best-selling shirt. Sting was actually outselling it at this point.
Well, and I can understand that because Sting is basically geared to the younger audience. And that's basically who drives the sale of merchandise. You know, we're talking over a pretty good match going on right here.
The buy rate for this was 0.56. It's just barely up from the prior year at 0.55. So a very, very strong house, but it's got to be a somewhat disappointing pay-per-view number, but probably disappointing because Hogan is not advertised, and Hogan was a big part. He's the top heel in the promotion. We are just 1 month away from WCW's biggest pay-per-view ever, Starrcade 1997. And people want to see the world champion, and they want to see the super heel Hulk Hogan, and he's not advertised for this show.
Yeah. So there's some sort of mistake made there. Look at that. Off the top, fans responded to that. They hit very hard, apron, then the floor. And Perry was very good at coming up with new and different type maneuvers or moves, if you will. In other words, just try new shit. What's wrong with that, right?
Speaking of new shit, you guys were kicking around the idea of making Nitro, NWO Nitro, come January. And that was the original premise behind Eric Bischoff having a match at Starrcade, with the idea that WCW would do a show on Thursday So the Thursday Thunder show would be for WCW and Nitro would be for the NWO. What'd you think about Disco Inferno using the Stone Cold Stunner as a finisher?
Didn't bother me at all.
No, I agree.
Blow back on that?
No,
no.
I just found it interesting that the top guy in the business, Disco's using his finish, but I mean, why wouldn't you? He's not on this show, so fuck him.
Yeah, exactly. He's not on this show. I'm very much against guys using finishes as just high spots and using other guys' finishes as high spots. But we're living in a different world, at least in our mind, the way we're selling it. Ooh, how about that swinging neck breaker? We're living in a different world than Stone Cold Steve Austin in the WWE. So we have to approach it that he doesn't exist.
Talk to me about the concept of NWO Nitro on Monday and WCW Thunder on Thursday. Do you remember those talks? How far did they get, and who ultimately made the call that was not a wise decision?
Well, ultimately, Bischoff made the call that was not a wise decision. There's a submission hold from Perry Saturn in the end of the match. I think in theory, the discussion was pretty good. But I think, after Sold Out, everybody came back to their senses. When we realized that the NWO pay-per-view itself was not that good.
Right.
So I think that was Eric just kind of backpedaling and saying, I made a mistake. We're not going to do that. Here you see him grabbing Billy Kidman. Billy, again, doesn't know how to sell shit, but that's okay. That's Kidman. Stone Cold Stunner on him. And he does that on, was that Loki?
Lodi.
And of course, Van Hammer doesn't know how to sell shit anyway, so he just kind of pushes him off. And that could be a shoot right there. That's right. Don't sell shit. What the flying fuck?
Chat me up about Van Hammer's nipple rings. It feels like something Klondike Bill and you would have had a conversation about.
Yeah, Klondike probably wasn't into that nipple ring stuff. I don't think. I think he's more old school, Hey, speaking of old school. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good to be with you. I have no idea where I got this tux, but I want to tell you now that we are talking the hotline. That's right. 1-900-909-9900. That's 1-900-909-9900. Taking your calls right now, and we're talking about some of the shit that you have seen in the ring, which, as you know, as this match night goes along, it's going to get a whole lot worse. $1.59 a minute. We're charging you 10 more cents now than $1.49 a minute. Kids must have parents' permission before call, and we know that's bullshit. We just want you to call. We want you to help fund my money. And here comes in to talk to me, ladies and gentlemen, standing at 7'4", 450 pounds, the Giant. Now, we know that in the future, you're going to be called the Big Show. And in the future, you're really going to be able to make some money. And we know that you fell off a building and never hurt yourself. So explain to me that you could fall off a building, never hurt yourself, but here you have your right hand all taped up. And it comes from this. Oh, that's right. No. Oh, no. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that happened last week on WCW Monday Nitro. They continue to work on the arm. The wrist is now broken. This comes from the man who fell off the top of the Cobo Hall and lived to talk about it. As you can see with the bad arm, Big Show was not able to connect with Scott Hall. Now, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. A couple of things I need to say. Before this night is over, as you know, listening to What Happened When, I'm going to take a big shit in Tony Schiavone's dressing room, and I'm not going to let it flush. Have you ever seen a giant turd? I don't think so. Well, if you want to know more about his turds, call the wrestling hotline, 1-900-909-9900. Yes, he survived falling off a building, but still the right hand is broken. More action on World War III. Let's go back to the ring. Something like that, I think, is the way it sounded. I can't, in my mind, honestly here now. I can't get over the fact, because I remember it like it was yesterday, the Giant falling off Cobo Hall and surviving. Every time I see the Giant, every time I saw the Big Show wrestle for the WWE, I thought the same fucking thing. I think one of the worst things we've ever done. Speaking of bad things, here is Sonny Ono and Yuji Nagata. Sonny, a friend of Eric Bischoff's. Sonny, a legit karate champion as well. And WOZ, I have no idea what that's about.
I should mention in the last match, Lodi, Meltzer would report hypothetically, his name was going to be Skank. But of course,
Skank.
We know it wound up being Lodi, which I think Skank could have been pretty fun. This is a rematch from Halloween Havoc, if you remember. Ultimo Dragon and Yuji Nagata, they're going to be going at it again here. They're going to go about 12 minutes and 45 seconds. And the stipulation here is that if the Dragon wins, he gets 5 minutes alone with Sonny Ono. And he has his elbow heavily taped here. He had just had surgery to remove some floating bone chips. And they're going to make that a pivotal part of the match. Meltzer liked it. He gave it 3 stars, which is a pretty strong rating.
Well, of course, this was all about getting his hands on Sonny Ono. And I agree. Of course, Meltzer's going to give anything that has an Asian star in there 3 stars. So now Sonny Ono. I thought Sonny Ono, as a little sawed-off runt that he was and is, I thought he did a good job of playing a heel manager at times. Yuji Nagata trying to get the fans behind him, and they just don't give a shit right now. I like the Ultimo Dragon's look here, didn't you?
I love the Ultimo Dragon. He's one of my favorite wrestlers from the time. I don't think he gets enough play. I know everybody likes to talk about Hoovy and Rey Mysterio, but I loved Ultimo Dragon, man. He's a great performer. I love the gimmick. I love the match. I just think I could watch his matches all weekend.
Yeah, he's good. Now I'm also noticing some of the signs. That's one sign that said Buff Bagwell for life. There was one sign from Thomaston, Georgia. I mean, holy shit. We're in Detroit and Thomaston, Georgia. Look at that move. Buff for the Heisman. What the hell? An elbow drop. Everything that the Ultimo Dragon, and you're right. You like him and you need to, because everything he does is so good and so crisp. Nagata going for a submission. He rolls out of it, and there's a submission. Oh, look at him just roll right over the top into a pinning combination, and he got a 2 count that time. Great drop kick again.
We should mention around this time, referee Mark, he's undergoing chemo and radiation therapy. That had to be a big deal, because I would imagine that Brian Hildebrand was pretty well respected amongst the boys.
We loved him. We have seen on we've seen on earlier episodes of our podcast, listen to the fact that, he was called the shooter because of preventing a fan getting to the ring. And Brian was a guy that respected the business, and we all loved him and was a damn good referee. Now, I never understood this. If you're going to get 5 minutes with him, what is this spot about, right?
Maybe it's evidence that he's not confident that he can win the match. So let's just get my hands on him while I still can.
Yep. Yeah, that could be. Because you keep up with him more than I do now. Saba, Simba, Benoit, the best thing going. Okay. I'm just reading the signs here. What is the Ultimo Dragon doing now?
He's still in the wrestling business. I think he's running a school. I could be mistaken on that, but I know he's been doing some promotion over the years, and he's still in the business, though, just not doing as much here stateside. Yeah.
Seemingly every has been in the business, either running a school or doing a podcast, right?
Yeah. I mean, lately they'll let anybody have a podcast except Eric Bischoff. Hey, so Stevie Richards was telling people around this same time that he was getting out of wrestling completely. He felt like he was not well served in WCW, wasn't really happy with the direction, and had a little bit of a real life falling out with Raven over all of it. So he was not a part of the flock that you saw just a minute ago. And this is kind of a new development, because we saw him at Halloween Havoc, which we just covered. Did you have any experience with Stevie? Were you disappointed to hear him say that he was getting out of wrestling completely? Of course, we know that didn't happen. He wound up back in ECW and then the WWF, and he's still doing stuff here and there, but he was just so burned out on the whole experience that he wants out.
Yeah. Stevie had a good head on his shoulders, still does. I've had a chance to talk to Stevie when we have been in, different autograph signings together. One of my favorites. I love Stevie, and I love Raven, and I knew about the disagreement that they had, and I thought it was bad for business because I thought they were both great workers. What
was the disagreement about? Do you recall?
I don't recall what the disagreement was about, but I do know that it was well known in the backstage area, and I was pretty upset about it because I thought Stevie, and he is, and became a great performer. Stevie would be the type of guy that would do anything and do anything well.
Well, it's interesting because, he was part of the main event for ECW's first pay-per-view in April of this year. And then he gets his big break in late summer to come to WCW. And he's here just a handful of months before he's like, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Right. Yeah.
Do you think he was too young to be in that spot? Is there such a thing as being too young and not mature enough yet to handle the road and the politics and just, the travel and the finances? And is there such a thing as too much too soon in wrestling?
Of course there is. But I thought Stevie had a great head on his shoulders. I thought he was mature. I don't know if it was too young would be it. It could have been the politics. We've well documented how political it was backstage at this time. That could have been it. But if you love wrestling and that's what you want to do, so you kind of stick it out unless the politics get too much.
Sean Waltman, who's wrestling here as 6 at the time, is out having just had neck surgery. And Mike Tenay is actually helping put together a tribute video for Brian Pillman, where all the proceeds are going to go to Pillman's family. I thought that was a nice thing for WCW to do.
Yes, it was. I agree.
Do you remember how Waltman hurt his neck? There's lots of rumor and innuendo about that.
What's the rumor and innuendo?
That Zbyszko did it.
Zbyszko did it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what Waltman says?
I don't know what Waltman says. I'm asking you were there, motherfucker. Why am I answering questions? You're answering questions.
You hear some guys take, listen, guys take so many bumps. They do.
Sure.
And they do so many crazy things. And 6 was the type of kid that did a lot of crazy things. It's hard to pinpoint one thing that happened that took him out. It really is. That could have added to it, but I'm not so sure if that was the case. I think a lot of this stuff is cumulative. Am I saying that word right? Cumulative?
No,
cumulative.
But I want you to keep saying it that way forever because it's more fun for me if you do.
It was a cumulative effect.
When you were a little boy and you were in school and you had to go get a book, where would you go get that book out of your school?
The library.
Fuck you with your extra R. This whole time you've been saying library, and now I'm calling you out on it. So you're like, oh shit, let me get that other R in there.
Library.
Now all of a sudden you're going to say cumulative. You're going to nail it in just a minute.
I'm a professional announcer, motherfucker.
Here's what I know about being a professional announcer, and I'm not one, but I'm very friendly with several. They say, oh, if you just say it with confidence, people will question, have I been saying it wrong my whole life? Because he's a professional announcer, and if he says it that way, then it's probably right.
Exactly. So the cumulative effect in the library.
See, you got me.
A submission hold. Oh, and Billy Silver, is that Billy Silverman still the referee? It is. But the foot is on the rope.
Is Billy Silverman related to Pee Wee Herman?
He is not.
I feel like
he's not. He's not even related, I believe, to Sarah Silverman.
No, there's no way. He's not nearly funny enough for that. But I do feel like, based on the bow tie and just his mannerisms, that this dude would jerk it in a public theater.
You're talking about one of my favorite comedians of all time.
Billy Silverman was a comedian?
No, Pee Wee Herman.
Oh, did he not beat off in the theater? Did I make that up?
He may have. Well, you know what? If you go to one of those theaters, don't they expect you to?
Hang on. Did you beat off a Captain America? I just need to know.
No, I did not. But if you go to see like a peep show or a porn show, don't they expect you to beat off?
How would I know, Tony?
Do you know what Heenan used to do when he was a young kid?
What's that?
True story. There's a 2 count. Heenan used to take ivory liquid and put it in a water gun and go to one of those porn things and squirt it on the back of people's necks.
You're making this up.
No, I'm not.
How old was he when he was doing this?
He was like 14 or 15.
Oh my God.
Used to put ivory liquid. Now, if you're in a porn watching something and you feel something on your side and you look at it, this white gooey substance, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking someone has ivory soap in a
No, they don't.
in a squirt bottle.
That's what he used to do. That was Bobby Heenan. Don't think he was in the same theater where Pee Wee Herman was, but
And what would have been great would have been if you would have finished that story by saying, and that's how Klondike Bill got in the business. Little boy Bobby Heenan squirted old man Klondike in the back.
maybe so. Oh, wow.
Here's the thing about Klondike. If he would have been hit with the ivory, he might not have even flinched.
No, he wouldn't have. He said it's just part of the, just absolutely. But did your screen go black or did mine right there?
No, everybody's did. It's WCW, Roll Tide.
Exactly. It is.
Here we go. Look at this high risk maneuver.
Oh, wow.
What camera shot was that?
Why would we take that shot?
Okay, I mean, I feel like Kevin Dunn just jumped brands and now he's working for you guys.
Yeah, I don't think so. This is all Craig Leathers right here, guys.
When did the oversized coat become the style? Because Sonny Ono has a Bernie Mac jacket on.
Yeah, maybe Sonny started that. I don't know.
Did you ever play with his Ninja Stars game that he and Bischoff had back before Bischoff was in wrestling?
Ninja Stars?
Yeah, they had a board game called Ninja Stars.
You're ribbing me.
No. Oh, look at this maneuver.
Wow.
Sunset flip into a power bomb. Can he get the pin, Tony?
No, he only got a 2 count. Son of a bitch.
Yeah. So Ninja Stars, you didn't play Ninja Stars?
No, I never played Ninja Star. I wasn't into ninjas at that time.
What about stars? Were you into stars?
No, I was in, Conrad, to superstars. Oh, how about that? 1, 2, no, a 2 count. And Sonny almost shit himself on the other side.
Here's what is funny to me. I wasn't into ninjas, Conrad. Anyway, let me sing you this musical.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing. Just making mention. I should also mention that around this time it was reported in the Observer that Bruce Hart was trying to convince WCW to allow him to restart Stampede Wrestling in Calgary, with some sort of affiliation with WCW to give younger workers an opportunity to get used to working in front of a crowd. Does this feel like nepotism at its finest right here? Since he knows his brother Brett's signing a deal, let's try to strike while the iron's hot, so to speak.
Yeah, I think. And, you know, in hindsight, what's wrong with that? They had the Dragon Sleeper on right there. And I guess he broke the Dragon Sleeper because Sonny Ono came up on the apron of the ring.
Yuji Nagata, still wrestling today, by the way. And even here in this show, they're promoting Yuji Nagata in his early January New Japan show, which of course these days is called Wrestle Kingdom. Look at that. That was so awesome for 1997. Top rope Frankensteiner, Hurricane Rana. And Yuji gets the foot on the ropes with the help from Sonny Ono. How would you describe Yuji Nagata's gear? We talked about this in Halloween Havoc. You've had a little time to think about it. What do you think?
Yeah, Yuji Nagata's gear. 1, 2, 3.
How would you call that pinning combination there? We're going to see it on replay. I'm going to need you to tell me what you call this pinning combination. Have some fun with this.
Okay, I'll try. You know, I'm kind of rusty. Even though coming up in the month of December, I will be on MLW's Never Say Never, along with my buddy, Rich Bocchini.
Oh, classy Rich.
What's that?
Oh, Classy Rich.
Yeah, he thinks we're hot at him. He sent me an email. And I said, "No, I'm not hot at you." I said, "That motherfucking Conrad over the top. Look at this, into a power bomb, and a release power bomb. It was with a cover, and now you want me to call the pinning combination? You want me to have fun with it? Here he had the Dragon Sleeper on. Should have won the fucking match, but he thought he won it. But the referee was with Yuji or with Sonny Ono. That should have been the finish right there. Look at this. Frankensteiner, Hurricane Rana combination. Fans thinking that's the 1, 2, 3. However, it's not. Sonny Ono takes a spill over the top in a pinning combination. My God, it's the face into the it's the face into the dick pinning combination.
I really hoped you'd come up with like a Ultimo BJ or Ultimo 69 or
Okay.
the Dragon
I just
Job.
call it the face dick pinning combination.
The old video games would have been funnier if you did that.
Oh, yeah, it would have been.
You got any good Dave Taylor stories? We haven't talked about Dave Taylor much on the show.
I do not. I did not know Dave. I did not get to know Dave hardly at all.
It's not a surprise. I'm not used to asking you a question and you actually answering. Hey, so
look, I remember going out drinking with Dave one time, and he was asking me, he said, "Is it true that Ric Flair shows everyone his penis?" And I said, "Yeah, Dave, it is." And he says, "Would you like me to show you mine?" And I said, "No, just looking at Flair's every night is enough." So that's the only Dave Taylor story I got.
Why do you think he wanted you to take a gander?
Well, because it's pretty apparent that when it comes to penis stories, that I'm the expert on them. Just watch a 30 for fucking 30.
Should we get like a new domain for you? Do you think?
Hold on a second. Come on. They have everybody talk about Ric Flair in the 30 for 30, but when they start to talk about his penis, who do they go to?
Well, resident penis expert.
Well,
Tony Schiavone.
Apparently so. So I was watching part of this, and someone at the radio station 92.9 says, "Why do they have you talk about Flair's penis?" And I said, "I don't know."
I have a lot of experience with it.
Apparently so. So there. Yeah. So my big debut on 30 for 30 is talking about Ric Flair's dick.
Well, speaking of penises, that's where we are at this point. We would encourage you to cruise on over right now. And this is up right now, lowkeybighog.com. Now this is safe for work, but if you go to lowkeybighog.com right now, you get Dave Taylor's favorite shirt, hashtag NFLTG. Remind everybody what that stands for, Tony.
Yeah. No fucks left to give.
We've also got finger licking, cat bath, married for life, I broke Wahoo's leg, suckers gots to know, easy way, hard way, you pick, low key, big hog, hard to beat, and Tommy Young. All of this is available right now at lowkeybighog.com. Whenever you pick up a shirt over at lowkeybighog.com, what eventually happens, Tony?
I stand on my head and part the Star Spangled Banner and jerk off at the same time.
And we call it the Aristocrats.
And I will give you a call. And I've had a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I should put this in at this time, but we're doing some nitro parties, and I'm going to people's abode, house, and spending some time with them. I do have like to say hello to my buddy Nick Mahmood out of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I'll be going up to Nick's house and spending time with he and his friends, having dinner on the 17th of December, that weekend.
So there you go. If you'd like to have Tony come to your house and say, "I don't remember," and then pose for pictures and tell you all about Ric Flair's penis, he is available. DM us. It's at WHW Monday on Twitter, and I'll get you all the details. If you're more than 300 miles from Atlanta, he's going to need an airplane ticket. But if not, and you're within driving distance, Tony will make the trek to you, and he will make your teenage fantasies come true. You guys can sit around, talk about Medusa, talk about Deborah, talk about Terry, talk about Tommy Young, whatever you like.
We may even get on the phone, Conrad, and call some people.
How about that? Yeah. Tony's Rolodex. Now, nobody will answer for him. Don't expect him to call Triple H and Triple H pick up. But
we know that.
No.
Absolutely.
How jacked is Scott Steiner here? We're just not, we're at the top of his physical fitness as a tag team here. I mean, he looks as big as a house, and it won't be long and he'll be a single star. Were you kind of sad when you finally saw the Steiner brothers kind of go their own separate ways as singles performers? It feels like the end of an era when that happens.
Was not a good time, because they are, during this era, the best tag team that I had seen.
We had a lot of fun calling their match at Wrestle War 92. And, a couple of weeks ago, that thing was a half shoot. And here we're with two more legit badasses with Dave Taylor and Steve Regal. This feels like four badass dudes. If you had Ming and the Barbarian in here, this may be six of the toughest guys in the whole business, right?
Yeah, as a shoot, Regal and Taylor were tough son of a bitches, man.
What did you think of the DiBiase combination with the Steiners? It feels a little out of place. It doesn't feel like something the Steiners would have necessarily been in favor of. And I don't know that they actually needed them. Is this just sort of trying to be a good guy and help, Ted with a gig, or what's the plan here?
Well, that's what it was. And if you think about it, look, there was a thought in the backstage area, and I guess Eric thought this, and it was always this way, that the Steiners were tremendous in the ring, but weren't the greatest talkers in the world. Rick, only thing he did was bark. Scott would scream a la the Road Warriors, and they thought if they put somebody with them that could talk, and we all knew that Teddy could talk, that would even enhance them a little bit more. But when you think about it, the Steiners didn't need the talk. They just let their actions speak for themselves. Agree?
No, totally. And they were my favorite tag team as a kid.
Yeah. They did not need to talk. Some guys got over by their talk. Some guys got over by their work. The Steiners got over by their work. It was kind of the cumulative effect. Oh, a knee into the face of Rick Steiner and that European uppercut. Well, everything that Regal did, Steve looking a little heavy right here. Everything that Regal did was so on point. Still one of my best friends in the business to this day. And a lot of people asked me that the comments that I made about Steve Regal in the very last Nitro, about putting his ass over, was that a shoot? And it was not a shoot. Obviously, I'm glad people remember that, because Steve and I still communicate to this day.
Around this time, it was in the Observer that you guys were kicking around the idea of a tough man division with Benoit, Finlay, Goldberg, McMichael, Ming, and others. Do you remember that conversation getting very far? Of course, this is about 6 months prior to Brawl for All for the WWF.
Yeah, and I think we all thought that we are trying to expand and try to do too many different things at once, right? We're having some success, build on that success, and then move on out further. So I think it was kibosh because of that. There's been a lot of good ideas in the backstage area that didn't come to play because there's just so much that we could handle. We were WCW. And the further you thinned us out, the more you thinned us out, the more we're going to fuck up. And I think there was a realization because of that.
According to the Observer, WCW had decided that at this point, they didn't just want Rey Mysterio to unmask, but Juventud Guerrera as well. We've talked quite a bit about unmasking Rey, but do you remember the reaction from Juventud, or what the talk about Juventud unmasking was?
I know Juventud didn't like it. Oh, what a tremendous move. Wow. And the fans are behind the Steiners here because they're hometown guys, basically. From Bay City, Michigan, a tag is made. During this time, there was a certain Eric Bischoff power play with the Luchadors. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, because around this same time, they started asking all the guys to sign exclusive contracts saying that they're not going to be allowed to work without WCW participating. and they don't want Conan or Rey Mysterio to work anywhere but here. They're not allowed to work in Mexico. So they're trying to tie them up with contracts, but at the same time, teasing them with the idea of a featured cruiserweight tournament with several weeks here and doing like a round robin rules similar to the Japanese long tournament styles. And they were hoping to have, featured spots on the show. And then of course, after they sign their contracts, they say, yeah, we've changed our mind. We're not fucking doing that.
Wow.
Conan took a lot of heat for that because Conan was sort of the liaison for a lot of these guys. And this starts maybe the first time there being some cracks in the foundation with Conan and WCW. Is that the way you remember it?
That's exactly right. And I always thought that Conan had a great sense for business, and he was kind of the liaison and kind of was for this because he thought it was good for business. And then of course everybody gets shit on. So I think maybe he took some undue heat on this one. All the heat for this should go on to Eric Bischoff. And I don't know. I just got the feeling Eric had a hard on about luchadors and about Mexican wrestling at that time.
Well, I wonder if it's because you're in his office telling him all the time that shit sucks.
Well, no, I wasn't in his office telling him that shit sucks, but you could tell by the way I
use my walk. I'm a woman's man. Yeah. No time to talk. Hey, so around this time, Conan was announced as being out of action for 2 weeks due to swollen kidneys, a herniated disc in his back, and tendonitis in his feet. How was a report like that? How does that go over in the locker room? This feels like maybe, and I'm not saying Conan was faking the injury. I'm sure he was hurt, but it feels like at the time that report would have been something a lot of the boys would have said. Tendonitis in the feet. Get the fuck in here.
Yeah, that's the way it was received. And also because of what was going on with Bischoff and the luchadors at this time, I don't think anybody believed it at all.
It just felt like, you know what? He just doesn't want to put up with the bullshit, but given the way Bischoff had handled him, who can blame him?
Take a look at Rick Steiner. Boy, he was stiff as they come. He was, again, you get guys, I know we've mentioned this before, and all four of these guys qualify. Guys who have tremendous amateur backgrounds are some of the toughest guys out there. Oh my goodness. Scott Steiner just laying him into the back of the head of Dave Taylor. No way the Steiners are going to lose in Detroit.
Can you imagine? I mean, how silly would that be?
Wow.
It would almost be like if they held award games with the Horsemen in like North Carolina and they somehow lost, right?
Yeah. Isn't that something? Who would do that shit?
Yeah. Like 2 months prior to this.
Right. Look at Regal up top. Oh, Frankensteiner 1, 2, 3.
Actually, it's the top rope bulldog, but it's whatevs.
Okay. Whatever. Top rope bulldog. Who gives a flying fuck here in 2017? Because I don't. And there are your winners, the Steiners.
Can you imagine? I mean, who would have looked into the future and said, these guys are going to be on a school board, a realtor, a traveling minister, and a purveyor of a motherfucking Shoney's. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed that. Life does change, man.
Yeah.
Call the action. It looks like Steve Regal here is not fucking happy with the hot bar. He had a complaint about the ham cubes and, the bulldog off the top rope because he didn't like the 3 listings that he showed him on Love It or List It Atlanta.
Yes. Face first into the butterscotch pudding on the bar, and your winners, the Steiners brothers. You know, it's amazing how time changes everything. Here I am, old, miserable, stuck in my basement.
Same as always.
Speaking of old and miserable.
Here we go.
Here's 2 of them right now. All right, we're here with James A. Jello. And James J., I understand that your podcast is classy. And the one by Tony Schiavone, Conrad Thompson, just full of F-bombs and bullshit. Tell us why you and Rich Bocchini think your podcast is much better. Now, I understand that, yeah, people fall asleep during your podcast. Well, let me tell you something, Gene. I do respect Tony Schiavone, and I respect Conrad Thompson. I respect both of them in their podcasts, but I like to say that Rich Bocchini, the little sawed-off runt that he is, has done a great job with me. Now we're talking about the stories that I remember back when I was the booker. That would change.
Yeah. Keep going, but don't give an actual answer. Keep going.
Okay. Did I ever tell you the time I was back in the booking office and I was having to sharpen my pencils?
And the key to sharpening those pencils is to make sure that the electrical outlet is plugged in. And I always bring a handy dandy tester meter to go ahead and make sure that it has the proper voltage.
Right. Well, both of us are in our autumn years of life, I would say right now.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Gene?
Speak for yourself. I mean, I'm 98 years old and,
I look the same.
I do. I look the exact same now in 2017 as I did 20 years ago here.
Okay. Well, JJ, I must say I've heard Tony's podcast and Conrad's podcast and Bruce Pritchard's podcast. Yours is boring as shit. And now back to the ring.
It's worth mentioning, guys. We're just fucking around, having a good time.
Yes, we are.
We're not.
And
JJ
of course, they may
Dillon.
have said that. They may have said that back then. I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, we're going to get lots of tweets on that. Rich is Tony's partner for MLW programming. I consider myself to be friends with JJ Dillon. We exchange emails. He's been to the house. We've, he texts me Roll Tide. Everybody's good. We're having fun. You should go check out their podcast if you haven't already. The JJ Dillon Show is available at MLWradio.com, and they talk about all things Jim Crockett. So if you tune in here every week and say, man, I wish they covered more Jim Crockett, well, grab yourself a pillow and check out the JJ Dillon Show. And if you're having some trouble getting to sleep and you want to hear all about the booking intricacies of March of 1986, then you can check out the JJ Dillon Show.
Huh?
Yeah. You back with me?
Yes, I am. As a matter of fact, who are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about Raven now. And what's so fascinating in hindsight is at the time, I don't think I understood Raven's real personality. Now, of course, these days I've heard Raven's personality and seen him do interviews and whatnot out of character. And he almost comes off like a cousin of Larry David. He's just very, the way he handles himself and talks to people and looks at life and situations. He has a very interesting take, and that's not the same personality that you see from the Raven character. And I think it's a credit to Scott in the way he was able to pull this off, because I believed that Raven was like this in real life, but you were there at the time. How does Raven today compare to Raven back then?
Well, the Raven today and the Raven that I knew in the backstage area, the same person. Look, here's my take on Scottie the Body, Raven, whatever you want to call him, Scottie Flamingo. I thought he was one of the great talents in the business. I really did. And I thought anything that he did, he pulled off. We saw him as Scottie Flamingo, 2 weeks ago? Last week?
Yeah.
Thought he pulled it off. Okay. And he's pulling off this Raven gimmick. What about me? What about Raven? And he has his flock, and you can almost understand that the way he is, that guys would follow in his footsteps, that he would be a leader.
Yeah. And this is just a few years after like the whole David Koresh thing. And so they're trying to do like a little bit of a cult leader deal, but also intermingling it with the grunge movement, which is really popular in music with Nirvana and Offspring and on and on and on.
So I thought it worked, and I thought Raven made it work.
We should also mention that Scottie Riggs, the former tag team partner of Buff Bagwell, they were the American males, and Buff Bagwell's we're over here and they're trying to find something for Scottie. It feels like Scottie was a good worker, but seemingly just kind of left behind as Buff sort of took off. So they're going to work this angle here, which has been a pretty effective angle, at least in my worldview, because you see the flock injure Scottie Riggs, and that's the reason he's wearing the eye patch. And so now they have a match here, but of course, Billy Kidman, before the match gets started, says, hey, you got to know the deal. If we're doing this, it's Raven's rules, which means it's no DQ. And the purpose for the JJ Dillon interview right before was not to put you to sleep, but instead to inform you that JJ Dillon had put Raven on notice that he had 24 hours to sign a contract or he wouldn't be given any more television time, matches, or interviews. So at this point, Raven's got a lot on the line, and this looks like his last normal no DQ match. This is where you talk, Tony.
3. Oh, you said JJ and I fell asleep.
Dozed off again. Yeah, my bad. I know it's NyQuil for podcasts. We'll move along. The match actually gets 3/4 of a star. I should tell you that Meltzer gave that Steiner match we just covered a 2-star rating. He said that the work was solid and Taylor and Regal's offense consisted of good wrestling and the uppercut forearms, which the Steiner sold big. But he said it was a typical Steiner's match and that they got heat on Scott. Rick got the hot tag and they went right for the finish. I thought it was a pretty good match, but I'm a fan of all those guys in that last match. And I think overall this card kind of gets a bad rap because it's pretty good. I mean, we've got an Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio match coming up in just a minute. You know, there might be one thing that's maybe not so great that's next, but overall it's pretty entertaining by 1997 standards.
Yeah, it is. And I know what's coming up next. Alex Wright and Steve McMichael. And then you go to the very end of this thing. There's nothing great about a battle royal. It's never, ever been anything great about a battle royal. And you leave thinking, oh, that sucked, right? So you feel the whole show is sucking. But what we're seeing right here, what we saw with the Steiners, I think what we saw with the Ultimo Dragon, I think they all became very good matches for, as you said, for 1997.
I should also mention here that you guys have allowed yourself to enter into a lawsuit. I'll get it right.
Oh God.
With the WWF for Canadian Stampede. Apparently when the WWF ran that pay-per-view in July, WCW took issue with this and said it was too similar to WCW Spring Stampede. And they took this to court. So the idea was the WWF had to settle out of court because they felt like WCW had a case, and the WWF agreed to never use the name Canadian Stampede again. It feels like in this era, if there is a lawsuit between the WWF and WCW, it's always the WWF suing, but this time you guys sued and won.
Yeah. That's shocking, isn't it?
It is.
Because when you first said lawsuit, I'm thinking, oh, here we go again.
Exactly.
We're going to settle out of court with the WWF or settle out of court with a wrestler claiming bias. But that was not the case.
We should mention here that Marcus Alexander Bagwell, at this point going by Buff Bagwell, was expected to be out another 3 to 5 weeks. He had surgery in his knee. I guess he had a torn meniscus. So he's going to be missing some time here, which is why you see so many Marcus Bagwell signs in the crowd. Goldberg is also out of action. He was originally supposed to take part in this card, probably going to be in there with Steve McMichael. That winds up not happening. He pulls a groin over the weekend, but still manages to do a run in at Nitro. And DDP is not in a good way either. He is supposed to have had blood in his urine, but in typical DDP fashion, doesn't miss a singles match. Did you remember ever having a situation in your life where you had blood in your urine?
Yes, I did a couple of times. For, I guess just being an old fat fuck. It was I never took a bump or anything.
No. You can't be, you're not going to be peeing blood cause you're fat. I would have had that by now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, they said, get it checked out. And, this, Asian doctor, 1, 2 count.
Did you say Asian or aging?
Asian doctor came in and they, numbed the head of my penis and they stuck a tube down it and checked my bladder with a, camera. You ever had that done?
No one's ever stuck anything in my penis.
It's very interesting. And, head first again to the chair. And, I saw my bladder on a TV screen and he said, there's nothing wrong with you. It just happens at times that you have blood in you. Where are we going with this? What the hell in the middle of this match? But anyway, so, I did have blood in my urine, but he pronounced me okay. Meanwhile, a chair shot to the head. I don't know if it put blood in your urine, but it would certainly put blood in your eyeballs. What's he trying to do here? Picks him up. Oh, that sucked. Oh, how about that for a DDT?
Even flow DDT, one of the best DDTs in the business.
Yep, I agree.
There's a rumor that Raven had to have one boot that had a bigger sole than the other because he had one leg longer than the other. Did you ever hear that?
Yeah. That was pretty well known.
I heard that, he dated a girl with a similar situation.
No, tell me the story, Conrad.
She had, well, this is a rumor, but
Okay.
apparently this girl he was dating had one leg longer than the other. Her name was Eileen. Around the same time.
I heard about Eileen.
Did you?
Yeah.
She was so sweet. Go
We
ahead.
would all in the back while they were having sex, look at her and say, "Come on, Eileen."
You know, I don't even know. I was going to go to a regular story, but you just can't help yourself. Hypothetically, do you think if Hogan was holding Scottie Riggs like that, maybe Scottie would have needed an eye patch in the other eye? That thermos would have put an eye out, don't you think?
Ooh, boy. You're not kidding, brother. It gives him a DDT again. Right. They're trying to convince Scottie Riggs to be a part of the flock here. I guess. Here's one thing I loved about it. Again, it goes back to one thing to me. To me, on the other end, Raven is just selling the hell out of what Scottie Riggs did to him. Scottie's going to be counted out here. And what are they going to call for?
Well, they're calling for help. I mean, it looks like a carcass. I mean, he took 3 DDTs. Now, of course, 3 DDTs means you need a stretcher, get thrown off the fucking building. No big deal. By the way, that's Kid Rock in the front row. No, it's just another white trash Michigan guy.
See, here's,
by the way, how special did you tell all your friends you were if you had front row tickets to a WCW pay-per-view and then you get there and you're fucking 90 yards away? I mean, cause
absolutely.
Look, there's 3,000 front row seats.
Right. Because of 3 rings. Absolutely. Look at, you know what? Look at fucking Kidman. Are you fucking kidding me?
I love that Kidman is what you're fascinated on. This Van Hammer with the nipple cut out of the shirt. Like what's going on here?
I think a part of my brain is just completely ignores Van Hammer.
Did you ever get Lois a shirt like that?
No, my God.
I heard if you did, it would look like a busted can of biscuits.
Yeah. A busted can of biscuits that ended up on the knee pads.
Well, they're taking it into the back. What do you think? I mean, I don't know that I'd want a guy with nipple rings carrying me around like that, just in case.
Well, I think it's better than calling in some help and bringing in a stretcher again. Cause to me, stretcher jobs meant nothing. And of course, it wasn't the chair. And here it wasn't the chair. It was the DDTs that knocked him out. So in other words, we're not selling the chairs, but we're selling the DDTs.
What's the proper way to take a DDT?
The proper way to take a DDT?
Yeah.
Is face first.
Just flat.
Yeah. Don't take it head first. You could break your neck.
There goes the stretcher with nobody on it.
No, thank God for that.
Oh,
All
no,
right.
you know what? That might actually be Eric Bischoff's podcast. They're stretching out right now. Do you think?
I have no comment on that. No comment at all.
Raven did an interview on Nitro around the same time where he referenced a girl he used to sit by in the 3rd grade named Teresa Hayes. That's the real life name of ECW's Beulah McGillicuddy. Did you ever meet Beulah?
Never did. No.
I've got a link I need to send you later.
Please do.
You and Klondike would be proud.
I had a feeling Klondike's name would come to mind here in a minute. All right. Here comes Matt Coon's favorite wrestler. I mean, lazy ass Matt Coon told me that with enough training and enough push that he thought Mongo McMichael could have been a big star.
Mongo McMichael was a big star, man. He won the United States title. He had dozens of pay-per-view matches. We're looking at one right here. He was in the 4 Horsemen. And most importantly to you, he got Deborah's guts, right?
Probably repeatedly.
Well, at least repeatedly. Now that pipe that he's bringing to the ring, can you explain the pipe? It feels like when he was walking out, it was like a scene out of a prison movie.
Well, it had something to do with Goldberg not being there. Right. And, I don't know. Wasn't Goldberg scheduled to be his opponent in this match?
He was, but hypothetically, what do you think Mongo wanted to say? Like right now, what's he saying about that pipe?
And say, well, I'd like to tell you something right now, and I'm pointing here with a lead pipe, that I have taken that lead pipe and put it in many different places that only Tony Schiavone would fantasize about. And why don't you bring out a fucking German to wrestle me?
Oh, that's hurtful.
Well,
there's Goldberg. He's left laying in the back. It's kind of funny because somebody finally injured Goldberg. Usually it's the other way around, right?
Well, it was the lead pipe this time that injured Goldberg. You see,
It's almost like a game of Clue. You know, it was Mongo with a lead pipe in the backstage area.
right. And Goldberg obviously is not going to come out, so we're going to bring somebody out with him, instead of him. And it's going to end up being one of the worst matches on this card, maybe the worst match on the card, right?
No, and I'm glad that we've got Kenny Powers here to call the match for us. Did you see Kenny in his latest endeavor on HBO, Vice Principals?
You know what? I've not seen one of them, but I understand they're pretty darn funny.
It's a lot different than Eastbound and Down. I'll give you that. Do you have a good Dave Penzer impression?
Yeah, let's see. Dave Penzer would have said, Hey, Tony, there's a couple of guys in the back that don't want to do the job, and they asked me to come tell you to go tell Eric. Do you think I should go tell Eric myself? And what do you think that I know they're causing some problems, and I know there's something here on this format that's not right, and I just don't want to be a stooge, but I just have a feeling that if I don't say something, that something bad's going to happen. And I would say, shut the fuck up, David. Just be a fucking announcer, okay? Get away from the backstage politics. That was David Penzer. God love him.
Give us some commentary here. What do you think Deborah is trying to sell Alex Wright right here?
Alex, don't go near this man because I know what he's made of. I just stay away from him. Come on. Oop, maybe not. I looking at Deborah kind of like is Trump Saul, doesn't it?
No.
You don't think so?
By the way, I reached out to Deborah and asked her to participate in your video. She didn't even fucking respond.
Yeah.
So just thought I'd mention that to you.
Well, then she sends me a picture of
a nude selfie.
No, it was a picture of her graduation announcement that she's graduating from the University of Alabama with her master's, criminal justice. And I told her I was very proud of her. And that happened just a couple of days ago.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
What's she want to be when she grows up?
She wants to get into criminal justice. And I think she's working very hard in the criminal justice division there in Tuscaloosa somewhere.
Oh, she's helping our football players play. I like that.
I was getting ready to say, as we know, there's not enough people in criminal justice in Tuscaloosa right now that can get things covered. Meanwhile, man, he is selling the hell out of Steve McMichael. And I'm sure Deborah did too at one time.
It was in the Observer around this same time that towards the very end of October, during some sort of skit on Nitro with the Nitro girls, Kimberly knocked herself silly, and it was pretty bad. Do you recall her being injured during an episode of Nitro?
Yes, I do.
What do you remember about that? Anything?
No, no more than just remembering that it happened. And also remembering that we were probably going too far with some things.
Around the same time, Eric Bischoff had a meeting in San Diego to try to get a deal for a WCW show on Telemundo. This, of course, is a Hispanic station that plays in the United States. And they were hoping to kind of capitalize off of the When Worlds Collide pay-per-view they had done in the past back in 1994. And they wanted to start maybe promoting some Lucha Libre shows under the WCW banner and whatever the strong Latin markets in the United States were, like San Diego.
Right.
It's kind of interesting that Bischoff is half-assed, wants to unmask two of the biggest stars and get them all under contract and then not really feature them.
Well, I think you know why Eric wanted to own the Luchadors.
Sure. I mean, he wanted to put a show together, which makes
he wanted to put his own show together. Absolutely, he did. That was a great move from Alex Wright. And those kicks mean absolutely nothing unless you're Jim Barnett. And there's a 1-2 and a 2 count. How long is this match supposed to go? I mean, we've gone like, 30 minutes already?
Yeah, we're about 46 minutes in so far.
Jesus, man.
No, really, they only go 3 minutes and 36 seconds, but it feels like forever.
It does.
Around this same time, Christopher Daniels was an indie darling in Southern California, and he was supposed to be getting a tryout with WCW. He actually did have a match on TV before WCW collapsed. Do you ever remember meeting Christopher Daniels?
Yes, I do.
Really? I did not expect you to say that, because he went on to be a really big deal in the business once you were gone. Chat me up. What was your experience like with Christopher Daniels?
Well, look, Christopher Daniels was just like a lot of guys that I met, a lot of young guys that I met. They didn't really register with me at that time. And of course, if you flash forward, they make a big name for themselves. I will equate this to when I was, and I don't know when this happened. I'm thinking it was the time that I did that one thing with TNA.
Right.
You know that I met CM Punk that day.
There's your tombstone pile driver, and Mongo gets the win over Alex Wright. You know, Alex Wright's career is going well when he's losing to Mongo in the middle of a pay-per-view.
And again, back to you meet young guys all the time on their way up who are independent guys who have not developed their character as of yet. And CM Punk said, "Hey, I met you a long time ago." And I said, "Really? Congratulations on your career now." And he explained to me when it was, and it didn't register to me right then. You know, you met a lot of young guys. You did.
Well, call this replay here.
Okay. The tombstone pile driver, facing the crotch. Wow.
It's the Barnett Dream Driver. That's what we're going to call it.
You're not kidding it. Barnett Dream Driver. And it was pretty stiff as well.
That's what she said.
Yep. She didn't like that.
Allegedly, the Colorado Kid walked out of the promotion here right after a match in the Orlando tapings where he felt like Scott Hall had taken liberties. Do you remember hearing about that?
Yeah. Scott Hall beat him up, didn't he?
Yeah.
Beat the fuck out of him.
Why was that allowed? What was the deal? What was the heat? What was the story?
Well, the story is that guys were doing their own thing back then. Taking guys who were stars on the independent circuit. And it was almost like, welcome to where the big boys play type thing. So
a month prior to this, Lanny Poffo got a tryout match in Biloxi, Mississippi. And Meltzer reported that the crowd hated the match, but that Poffo worked a solid match had it been held 2 decades prior. Of course, we know Poffo wound up getting a deal and was just paid to sit home, right, Tony?
That's right. And I talked to Lanny about that. Lanny understood why he was getting a deal. And he said, I would be crazy not to take a deal and sit home. And I think anybody would have done that, right?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't he? It's free money.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time with Lanny recently on we went to Staten Island together and spent some time, had lunch together. And,
so
Lanny's
was it a date?
No. It wasn't a date. We were all we were on tour.
Oh,
we did an autograph signing in New Jersey, did autograph signing in Staten Island, and did an autograph signing the next day at Bud's in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Did you do any like walks on the beach or anything like that?
No, did not. And we got to know each other we've known each other. We got to know each other quite well. I have a lot of respect for Lanny Poffo. A lot of respect for him.
Did you know Lanny Poffo doesn't buy toilet paper?
I did not know that. Why?
I was like, it's a waste of money.
Really?
Yeah.
What, does he just have a bidet in his house?
That's right.
Well, there you go.
He just drills out the doo-doo with the water stream. So,
well, there's nothing wrong with that. You get cleaner.
I mean, I have one too, but I also have toilet paper for safety, you know, like nothing
I don't use toilet paper.
You use wet wipes.
Right. I use the Cottonelles.
Here's what's amazing to me. This is a guy who doesn't cut his fucking toenails, but you're using a bidet. I mean, you're using wet wipes.
Wet wipe. Yeah. Because they make you cleaner.
Oh, for sure. But
Yeah.
this, you know, you have like a specified day a week you shower. Like you're a 1 shower a week guy, but you're
Well,
using wet
depends on what
wipes.
time of year. It's a shower every 2 weeks if it's winter time and I'm not sweating as much.
But yet you want to run around and use wet wipes.
Right.
Like what's the difference? I mean, you're just a fucking heathen either way. You already told me that you're taking a shit and then showering. I mean, a shower and then shitting.
Right.
Like you're doing that all backwards.
Well, no, I mean, look, it's just, the wet wipes or the Cottonelle wipes do a great job of getting around the hemorrhoids.
Okay. So listen, I'm glad it's just me and you talking. Nobody can hear us. As we're talking about Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero in the match, we're talking about hemorrhoids, which sounds like a Michael Cole match. Chat me up. What's the hemorrhoid situation like? What do I have to look forward to?
Oh, you're going to have to, you're going to have a lot to look forward to. You're going to, have a lot of blood in your stool. You're going to have, there was one time we did a pay-per-view in Tupelo, and my hemorrhoid was so bad. One of my hemorrhoids was so bad. It was like, you know, if someone blows a bubble of gum and it just pulls out of their mouth and you see how the bubble looks, you know, it looked like a bubble of bubble gum. And I had to lay the day before on my front side and put on preparation H all that day so I could sit down and do the event the next day.
And what year was this?
This had to be like 98, 99.
Wow. WCW really fucked your ass up, didn't they?
Boy, they did that day, man. And you know, I always thought that hemorrhoids, as we see, there's probably plenty in the front row right now, but hemorrhoids were always kind of like a thing that was handed down. In other words, if your father had them, your grandfather had them, you were going to have them.
I don't think you should say my dad gave me hemorrhoids. I think some people might take that the wrong way.
Well, no, I mean, and then of course you also, you know, Randy Anderson used to tell me back then, he said Pee-wee says, I never had hemorrhoids. He said, because he would always use laxatives and he wouldn't have to push hard. And therefore you wouldn't get hemorrhoids. You ever shit more than one time a day?
Yep.
Okay.
I do that pretty regular. I'm a morning shitter and an evening shitter.
Yeah. If you shit about 3 times a day, sometimes like I did, your hemorrhoids are really going to pop out.
Well,
My dad had hemorrhoid surgery, by the way.
you know, we're talking about hemorrhoids and we've got a 4-star match going on in the ring right now. It's the match of the night. Everyone agrees. Overall, this pay-per-view gets an overwhelming thumbs down, 68% thumbs down, only 10% in the middle, a putrid little 21%, thumbs up. The best match, man, is unanimous. It's this match. And of course the worst match is the Battle Royal. They call even Alex Wright and, Mongo is better than the Battle Royal. What a back suplex from Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah. And boy, Ray hit on his head that time. I was amazed at all the stuff they would do, but I was amazed a lot of times the way they would land. You know, you learned as a professional wrestler how to take bumps and you learned how to land. And it just seemed that sometimes that they would even push the envelope a little bit further about landing the wrong way because it made it look real. And that back suplex, I know we're not going to see a replay of it. We may later on, but it was tremendous. And Ray's holding his head, doing a real good job of selling it right now.
The other rumor, so I feel like I should correct this, is that Syxx was not injured by Larry Zbyszko. It actually happened in a match in Minnesota against Lex Luger. Who do you think is more likely the culprit of the injury that was the last straw for Sean Waltman that needs surgery, Luger or Zbyszko?
Sorry, I've been interrupted here. What do you want? No, I got a little bit. You're cooking dinner? What do you got?
Is it delicious Blue Apron?
Steak, baked potato, and a salad.
Hey, tell her to drive that shit to my house. What's the holdup?
No, I've got I got a little bit longer to go. So sorry about that. Probably another hour.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. When's the last time you cooked dinner? For crying out loud.
When's the last time you did a podcast in the basement? Crying out loud.
All right.
You've been down here for 2 hours.
Well, yeah, it takes a little bit long to do these things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Slow-mo.
Yep.
Tell her to go clean up the fucking dog hair.
Okay. Clean up the fucking dog hair. That's what Conrad said.
Well, it'll be up here cold.
Okay.
Just like you.
You're giving me these lines, but I've got to live with this woman.
You've done it for 40 years. What's a little longer? She probably can't hear anyway. You have to like kick the floor 2 or 3 times.
She's actually cooked steak tonight. Wow. Okay. So anyway, I'm fired up. Where are we here in this match? Okay. Sorry about
It's
that.
the best match
you
of the
had asked
show.
me a question.
Well, we were talking about who do you think's more likely the culprit who injured Sean Waltman here, Lex Luger or Larry Zbyszko?
Well, on the surface, you would think Lex Luger because you always thought Larry was a better worker than Lex, right?
Yeah.
And knew how to, again, a singles match, tag team match, no matter what it is, you are teammates. You are working together
Right.
to have a good match. And, Jesus, my goodness.
We should mention we are just a few weeks away from the biggest match in WCW history. It's Hogan Sting at Starrcade. And you guys actually came up with the idea of doing an angle on Nitro that would lead to a live press conference during a movie where you guys could show in the middle of the movie, the Hogan Sting press conference. The idea being this would get the wrestling audience to watch the movie. And, of course, on TNT, Bischoff only gives a 30-second segment during the first commercial, another 60 seconds, a little later, about 80 minutes into the 2-hour movie. And, then Sting no-shows the contract signing and then breaks down the door and does a stare down. And fans aren't necessarily tickled having to watch a movie to do it, but it's pretty smart cross promotion in hindsight, don't you think?
Oh yeah, it really is. No question about that. That was Assault of Devil's Island. Am I right?
That's right. And believe it or not, Eric Bischoff actually got listed there as the co-executive producer. Do you think that's where Bischoff got the television bug doing these shows for TNT when he was running WCW?
Oh, there's no question. Eric told me one time, he said that he likes announcing, and he enjoys wrestling, but he would rather do a deal than anything else. In other words, he was big into trying to do TV deals, trying to be, and of course he went on to produce some things after his years in WCW. He loved doing that stuff. He always thought he was a deal maker.
He still is, except when it comes to podcasts. Hey, so,
and then he's no show.
Yeah, he's no show Jones. Paul Roma was working WCW shows, or actually just showing up, trying to convince the company to bring him in and use his cousin as well, Alex Roma. Why do you think Paul and Alex didn't get a run here? You guys were passing out contracts to everybody else. Did Roma have heat by this point in the company?
Yeah, he did. And why he had it, I don't know. Maybe they thought that he didn't want to work. In other words, he didn't want to do things the company way.
Diamond Dallas Page was also a big Brian Pillman fan, and he did some fundraising and raised $1,000 for the Pillman family. How was Pillman's death received by the boys? Do you remember there being a lot of guys who were pretty tore up about that because they were tight with him, or is it more of a cautionary tale where it was, man, don't let this happen to you?
Yeah, well, it was both. There were guys who were close to Brian, and there were guys who looked at what happened to Brian and said, that could happen to me.
Well, and the reason I say that, of course, we know now in hindsight that there was not a drug situation here. He had a heart issue, but there were preliminary reports on the WCW hotline that it was a cocaine overdose that Mark Madden eventually corrected. But lots of people, even Vince McMahon, the very next day, were sort of speculating that prescription drugs may have played a part. And at this point in the business, somas are very popular, and we're going to see another cautionary tale in the 60-man battle royal with Louis Spicolli, who wouldn't be long for this world either, also because of a soma addiction.
Well, the guys took so many bumps and did so many things, Conrad, they had to do something to relax. And I could see guys getting addicted to painkillers and sleep aids. We were in a town one time, and I don't know when it was, but I can remember the exact someone was scratching at my door in the early mornings, scratching like a dog would scratch at your door. And I opened up the door, and it was Louis Spicoli. And I said, Louis, what do you want? And Louis looked at me. He didn't even know who I was. And he just went on to the next room and scratched at the door. And all of a sudden, and I'm standing in the hallway, all of a sudden I'm thinking, shit, I've got to do something. So I call the front desk. They have security come up. Security calls the person who was apparently in charge of the talent, and that was Terry Taylor. And Terry says, come on, Louis, you got to come with me. And he takes Louis to his room and puts him in the bed. And Louis was completely out of it. I don't know what it was he was on. Maybe it was somas. Maybe it was painkillers. And it wasn't too long after that then Louis had died. But I saw basically firsthand what that did to people, what that did to some of the guys in the business, being on all those drugs that would enable you to perform, take bumps, and enable you to come back the next day and be fresh. I hate to talk about that in the middle of this great match, but that brought up that reminder from Louis.
Let's run through some other quick notes here. The very next day, we just saw him, Alex Wright on Nitro would be seriously injured in a match with Prince Iaukea. And Meltzer wrote, don't know all the details, but he apparently had some sort of brain aneurysm and was blinded in one eye for a while, sent to the hospital and hooked up to IVs. Do you remember Alex Wright being injured here?
Yes, I do. I don't remember it being that serious though, or remember it being a part of blind in one eye. I don't remember it being that serious.
Buddy Landell was at your Knoxville show looking for work. Why did Buddy not get a deal? Was Buddy still battling some demons at this point?
No question. But that's the reason Buddy never got a really big deal. What he did back in the Crockett era, back in the 80s, haunted Buddy the rest of his life.
3 days after this pay-per-view, they're going to do an appearance on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and the Giant appears there, but he forgets to wear the cast on the broken hand. Is that something anybody in WCW would have mentioned, or was it just you guys were kind of over that at that point?
No, we mentioned that. That was not good. And that's kind of just, again, if you fall off a building, you don't get hurt. You might as well not wear the cast during Jay Leno, right?
Tickets will go on sale a few days after this for the January 5th Nitro. We all remember that. It was a big deal because it goes down at the Georgia Dome, and they sell 10,646 tickets on the very first day for $309,130. So an incredible house. The largest gate ever in Atlanta was Flair and Nikita at Starrcade for $380,000, but that's obviously going to be shattered here. And because Hogan's got so much stroke, the rumor is he's trying to get Yokozuna into WCW. And of course, Meltzer would joke, remember, he still has a win he needs to get back. The problem with, is New York has revoked Yokozuna's wrestling license. So he's not going to be able to wrestle in about 20 states. Of course, this is based on his weight, which at this point has ballooned up to over 600 pounds.
Wow. And through all this, we talked through a false finish where Ray thought he won the match, and Eddie comes back to win it as well.
What an unbelievable match. You know, I didn't want to make fun or poke fun of this match. I recommended Halloween Havoc 97 in a big way to you. It's one of my very favorite matches. This to me is not as good as their Halloween Havoc match, but still the very best match on the card and one of the best matches that you'll see. Meltzer gave it 4 stars. I can't recommend it enough. Go out of your way to see this. And, we should mention that when this goes down, I believe it was the 3-year anniversary of Art Barr, the former tag team partner of Eddie Guerrero, passing away. And, the finishing maneuver that we all know, 84, the Frog Splash, was actually a tribute to his late partner, Art Barr. So, shout out to Art. You guys had Art under contract for a minute as the Juicer.
The Juicer, right.
Any good memories?
Beetlejuice knockoff. Yeah.
What do you remember about the Juicer? Anything good you can tell us?
Yeah. I remember he was ahead of his time. I remember thinking that, it was kind of a bizarre looking character like Beetlejuice, but he could do some damn good things. And we were all very, very happy with, at least I was very, very happy with watching him perform.
Where were these Starrcade promos shot?
They was shot in Atlanta.
You know, I know we made fun of the opening for this one with World War III, but these shots of Sting, I felt really were well done. I mean, you guys went all out for this. You knew what you were doing well in advance. You had plenty of time to get it right. And I thought you nailed these promos.
Yeah. It's one of the first times that you would see us actually focusing on a match during a pay-per-view. In other words, we would just give you generic promos.
Right.
Like a Starrcade, the Lethal Lottery, didn't sell shit. Bash on the Beach, being on the beach, didn't sell shit. But now we got Hogan and Sting, and that sold the pay-per-view, and it was well done. Well, looking forward to this match, aren't you?
Absolutely. You know, another rematch from Halloween Havoc. Feels like there's a lot of these here, but here we've got Kurt, and this time he has the proper belt. Of course, at Halloween Havoc, he had the cruiserweight belt, but here he's got the actual United States Championship. He's going to come out and just have a seat with his belt on. Kurt was known for being one of the most notorious ribbers. Did he ever rib you or anybody else on the production staff?
No, he never did. He never did rib me, but I think his ribs just kind of was directed at the boys. You know, years ago when I was with Jim Crockett Promotions, he came to Charlotte to talk to Jim Crockett. And I had my mother's car back then because I couldn't afford to get my own car. It was just me and Lois and Matt. And my mother's car had one door that worked, which was the driver's side door. It was a Maverick. And I opened that door and he kind of slid in and slid all the way to the right side. And I picked him up. And that was my first memory of Curt Hennig. And he always gave me a hard time about picking him up in the shit car every time he saw me. I can't remember what year that was, but that had to be the early 80s. Maybe 83, 84. Did I make you fall asleep with that story?
Not at all. Not at all. I did not flip over to JJ's podcast. You guys are going to have a big 1998. You've already booked the Astrodome in Houston, the Superdome, the Georgia Dome, and the Alamo Dome. As shows you guys were running in the first quarter of 1998. Is this at this point the hottest the business has ever been the entire time you've been in it?
Yes, it is. There was nothing like it. And we had what I consider, if I say record crowds, probably on the number was not a record crowd, but you go a place like this, you go to the United Center in Chicago and you sell out. Business is as hot as it's ever been right now.
No doubt about it. And, you guys have already set a record for, Starrcade. It was a 22,000 capacity and you guys were going to sell it out with tickets for $100, $35, $25, and $15. We're going to be covering Starrcade 97. I know we get lots of questions about that being the most iconic WCW pay-per-view. Well, stay tuned. Next month in December, we're going to bring you Starrcade 1997. I'm pretty fired up about that one, Tony.
Yes, I am too, because Starrcade 1997 was in Washington and it was one of the most memorable events and probably, you know, Conrad, and we'll talk more about that. That could be said to be the turning point for WCW.
No doubt about it.
You know, we were going uphill. We're up on top of the plateau. Everything's great. And then one little moment started us moving downhill.
Well, not financially. Of course, you guys had, you know, record years in 98 and really strong in 99. 2000 becomes a disaster. You know, as far as top line revenue relative to what the profit's going to be, you know, it was just way, way, way out of whack. But speaking of out of whack, Flair at this point has just signed a 3-year contract with the company. And this is well after people thought he was going to retire. Of course, at Starrcade 93, people thought that was definitely it. Well, this is going to have him at 52 years old by the time this 3-year contract expires. And it's interesting because so many people were saying that he was well past his prime at this point for more than 5 years. But by today's standards, 52 is not that old. As we talk right now, Triple H is 48. So, when people were saying, "Oh, you're a dinosaur," it's Triple H last year. I just don't think of that the same way. Do you?
No, I don't think of it. I think that you're a great performer and you don't have to be the greatest. Look at this, 52 years old, or right now, 49 at
Getting
this
it.
time?
49 and getting it.
Yeah. You're not kidding. 49 and getting it. If you can perform, if you can talk, if you can work a match, doesn't matter how old you are. To me, Ric Flair was timeless. And I really mean that. I remember the Ric Flair with the long hair, and I can go back and watch some of the events from Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Yeah, he looked younger, but to me, as far as Ric Flair was concerned, age didn't play into this at all.
It's interesting to me that, even though you guys have Bret Hart coming in, you don't book any extra Canadian dates. Like, I don't think there's actually any dates booked in Canada when he first came over. Doesn't it feel like you guys should have tried to load up Canada and pull a number with him?
I think we did. That's a Gary Juster question. I think Canada was a very, very tough place for us to book. And the reason was Vince McMahon.
Sure. He had put a block on a lot of the buildings for sure.
Yeah, absolutely did. And why go all the way to Canada? And if you can't get a top flight building where you can make some money.
So after doing a $400,000 house here for the pay-per-view, the next night in Saginaw, Michigan, instead of drawing 17,000 fans, they draw 5,800, only 5,000 paid, $111,000 gate here for what Meltzer called the most boring Nitro in a long time. The NWO would of course open the show, and they brought out a fan sign that says Bischoff owns Vince, which a lot of the wrestlers were laughing about, most notably Conan and Hogan. I think we all remember Bischoff kind of cruising down to the ring, picking out some signs and showing them off on TV. Is that something you got a chuckle out of, or did people think it was a little ridiculous?
Well, okay. Did I get a chuckle out of that? No. Did people think it was ridiculous? The boys in the backstage area, a lot of them laughed about it. A lot of them didn't, because, they didn't want to be on that side. Which brings up a point. I was shocked that Bischoff ended up working for Vince.
How so?
Because of how much he ripped on Vince, not only in front of the camera, but backstage. I mentioned before that, and we were at the Target Center where he said, "I will not rest until I drive a stake through his heart." I remember that statement to the boys. And I'm thinking, he's taking this personally. And you knew that would get back to Vince, that he would say something like that if he would say it in front of the boys. So it was Scott Hudson who called me and said Bischoff's going to be on WWF television, I was absolutely shocked. Just because I guess Vince is a businessman and he could let bygones be bygones, but Eric made it personal. He really did. The war back then. So that's why I'm shocked.
Let's talk about merchandise. We mentioned it earlier. You said, "Hey, I hope we had NWO shirts by this point." You did. As we mentioned earlier, 139,000 is the gate for the merchandise at this show. That includes 1,894 programs, and the top selling shirts in order were Sting with 898, the NWO with 774, Diamond Dallas Page with 502, Six with 489, Savage with 165. The next most popular item was a poster of Kimberly that sold 130 units.
And that's without us really promoting the stuff.
Are you surprised by those numbers?
No, I thought the numbers could have been more. The numbers could have been more if we had taken the time on our shows to promote, as we called them, the gimmicks.
I mean, you're talking about, you guys probably sold 3,000 items that night. That's pretty fucking strong for a single building.
Yeah, it is. I just think it was, I thought we left a lot of money on the table there, bud. We were not good as a company of promoting anything but a wrestling show. It seemed like we never did take the time to think that, what can we do to sell more merchandise? What can we do to sell more videotapes this is before DVDs. What can we do to enhance our product outside of the wrestling ring, the television show? We did a horrible job. We had a tremendous, and this was during this era, we had a tremendous partnership with EA Sports. And we never did a good job of promoting it. Never did.
There's something in the Observer here that says Mean Gene had family ties to the Orion Food Systems Company in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So he lent them his name for Mean Gene Burgers, and they had 4 or 5 franchises throughout the country. But apparently it was really more of just a favor to a family friend. What do you remember about Mean Gene Burgers, and did you ever have any?
Never had a Mean Gene Burger, but Gene was really into it. I never thought it was a favor to a family friend. Gene, we would go out to different places to eat, like Wendy's, Burger King, and Gene would always take a look at a hamburger that we would have and say, look how shitty that hamburger is. He said, our hamburger is on a corn-dusted Kaiser roll. It's real beef. It's not shoddily put together. And he told me that his Mean Gene Burgers were basically in like these travel plazas. They were not standalone restaurants, but they were in if you go to like a Pilot Travel Plaza, sometimes
right,
you see an Arby's or a Chick-fil-A or something like that. That's where Mean Gene Burgers were. I never did see any of them, but I think they were mostly up in the upper Midwest. However, if you would drive sometimes down 75 towards Macon, there was a sign there that said Mean Gene's Burgers, the burger that says, bite me. And so apparently there was one at a truck stop there on 75 in Georgia, middle Georgia.
Hypothetically, do you think Mean Gene put any PJ in the special sauce?
I don't know.
Speaking of PJ, Bischoff was in a prodigy, easy for me to say, chat where he ripped the WWF for their degree of sexual content and racial overtones that he said they were playing during children's programming. He says, I read a copy of his online chat where he compared the sexual content and racial content of his program. He's talking about Vince. And he said he isn't doing things that haven't been done before. And he singled out NYPD Blue. That's the kind of poor judgment that if he goes out of business, he has nobody to blame but himself. When NYPD Blue has exposed derrieres and sexual content, one only has to look at the advertisers that ABC includes in that programming, and you'll see that clearly the program is targeted towards adults, while McMahon's program is clearly targeted at children, in many cases, children under 12 years old. For the USA Network and Vince McMahon to suggest that it's okay to produce programming with a degree of sexual content, racial overtones, and in my opinion, general bad taste, while obviously selling their programs to advertisers that are targeting children's toys and candy, I think it's nothing short of professional. It's socially irresponsible on the part of Mr. McMahon and the people who work with him, including the USA Network. What do you think about that? Was this smart of him to come out strong against the content? I mean, that content is not necessarily something you were for based on the way wrestling had been presented, but we know your personality in real life to be a little different. What did you think of this?
I was totally against this.
Against what McMahon was doing, or against Bischoff calling him out?
Against Bischoff calling him out. You ignore the competition.
Right.
You never call out the competition by name. Something we talked about here before.
Sure.
Vince started doing that down the road a little bit, but he never did that. And Eric kind of started it. I mean, this goes back to me talking about Cactus Jack, Mick Foley winning the world title, and my famous butts and seats thing. I should have never done that. I would have never done that if it was my call. And you just ignore the competition. Your time and your energy and your thought process should always be on your product and not anybody else's. But Eric was not like that. He thought completely differently.
This match we're talking over here, of course, is Kurt and Ric Flair, a rematch from Halloween Havoc. These guys are having a pretty good match together. Meltzer would wind up giving it 2.5 stars. He says that it was a weird match in that as it was laid out, it appeared to be a great match. The crowd was into Flair when he came out, but when the crowd recognizes he's no longer the old Flair and a match slows down, they lose interest. Eventually he would say Bobby Heenan made the brilliant remark early in the match saying that because of Kurt's strong legs, he didn't think Flair could make him submit to a figure 4. Actually, in this case, all 3 announcers on this broadcast were far better than the show they were broadcasting, some of which is because of the absence of Dusty Rhodes and because Mike Tenay worked the entire show for the first time on a pay-per-view. Dusty was clearly hurt from an ego standpoint about the change, which was made more than a year overdue, as he spent much of the Saturday TV show the previous day complaining about the new announcers' assignments. What'd you think of Dusty being out and this being Tenay's first full show in?
Well, I didn't like Dusty being out. I thought if you go back and take a look at some of the previous ones that Dusty and Heenan and I did, they were very entertaining. Dusty was a very entertaining guy. I like working with Mike. Mike, he was called the Professor, a name that I gave him. And I thought working with Mike really made it a different broadcast. But I really loved working with Dusty and didn't like the fact that he wasn't with us anymore.
If you had to pick, who would your ideal partners be? You can't switch it up. You've got Larry Zbyszko, you've got Jesse Ventura, you've got Jim Ross, you've got Mike Tenay, everybody you've called with over the years, including Bobby Heenan and Dusty Rhodes. We're going to have a 3-man broadcast booth. Who's in it?
It is me, Larry Zbyszko, and Jim Ross.
I would not have guessed that you would have included that.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Look, it depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for guys to call a match as if it's a real live sporting event? Or are you looking for guys to call a match to make it entertaining, irreverent, and funny? In other words, what the announcers say makes it part of the show.
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I asked you, which would you prefer? And you gave an answer. Why did you prefer them?
That's my answer. Yeah.
Because they call it like a sport.
Yeah. They call it like a sport. Larry was in many ways the very best pure color man I ever worked with. Talking about pure color man, if you call it a sport.
Was there anybody in that business that you never had a chance to work with? You wish you could have?
Well, you're springing that one on me. I always want to do some work with Lance Russell. Are you talking about as a color guy or just any announcer at all?
Any announcer.
No, I always wanted to work with Lance. I never got a chance to work with him. May he rest in peace. During this time, I would have loved to work with Jerry the King Lawler, but I got a chance to work with him in the XWF a little bit. I thought he was very, very good to work with. And the answer to you is basically, that's it. I was very blessed to be able to work with Jesse, with Heenan, with Dusty, with Zbyszko.
So, let's run through the color guys. You would have had Ventura, Bobby Heenan, Dusty Rhodes, Zbyszko. Who am I missing?
Well, okay. And I'm not talking about pay-per-views here, but I'm talking about other shows. I got a chance to work with Kevin Sullivan. I worked with Dutch Mantell, who was very, very underrated. Very, very funny.
Let's just go with the big 5, I guess. We'll go with Ventura, Bobby Heenan, Dusty, Zbyszko, and Jerry Lawler. If you had to rank your top 3 of that 5, what would it be?
Well,
for you, like a partner for you.
I can't put Lawler number 1 because I only worked with him like one time, basically.
Okay.
All right. So he would be number 5. Number 1, and I know it's going to be contrary to what I just said, but number 1 would have, as a color man, would have been Heenan. Number 2 would have been Ventura. Number 3 would have been Zbyszko. And then who else?
Dusty's 4.
Dusty's 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's very tight race.
For me, man, the top 2, we totally agree with. I loved you with Bobby and I loved you with Ventura. I thought that was good stuff. And I thought Zbyszko was good, but I'm more of a Dusty guy, but I just get tickled. I think Dusty reading the newspaper was entertaining.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. An earlier show that we did. Some of the stuff that Dusty did on that show and that was a World War III show, wasn't it? From Norfolk?
Just about every time Dusty opens his mouth cracks me up.
Yes, it was entertaining. So if you're looking for entertainment value, Dusty was the way to go. If you're looking for calling it as a shoot, working with JR was great. And I had JR on my radio show a couple of weeks ago. He came to Atlanta with his new book, Slobberknocker, My Life in Wrestling. Had a signing the next day. He came in the studio, spent 2 hours with us. And I told him the thing that you and I talked about, that JR's work back in the old Crockett days before he was JR, was spectacular. And being able to work with him and his energy and again, working with Zbyszko and his knowledge was good stuff.
When JR...
I'm a lucky guy, buddy.
Oh, no doubt.
I'll say that again. I'm a lucky guy that I was able to work with so many great wrestling announcers. I worked with Gordon Soley throughout my career. How many people can say that? They work with JR and Gordon Soley. Not many announcers can say that. And now, fast forward to 2017, I'm working with Conrad Thompson.
I was going to say, what's unfortunate is you go from Gordon Soley to lazy ass Matt Coon. It's like bookends on a career, right?
Yeah.
It was
Matt
the best
Coon
of times. It was the worst of times.
Yeah. Matt Coon laying in that chair saying, breathe, you'll be fine. You won't die.
Hey, I feel like I should mention here, I think I just saw Les Gold from Hardcore Pawn, the old cable TV show back when he had hair on the right, or it could just be some other white trash Michigan person.
All right. I don't know what show you're talking about, but
you ever get...
It's a pretty good spot here.
Oh, it's a great spot.
Yeah. Trying to get out. Flair's going to kick it again. Oh, very well done. Randy Anderson running. Look at Randy. Again, subtleties, but referee makes a match. Good referee. And Kurt doing a hell of a job of selling it.
As a reminder here, boys and girls, at the War Games, Kurt Hennig turned on the Four Horsemen and then slammed Ric Flair's head in the cage. That was 2 months prior. And then Flair ran to the ring, sprinted to the ring last month in Halloween Havoc to get his revenge. And now he is trying to be as light as a feather with a folding chair with Kurt. What was it that Rick was so concerned about with a chair? It feels like he was always worried about hurting somebody. I've never seen Flair give somebody a really hard chair shot.
Well, again, you're teammates and you're trying to, you try to make you try to make the chair shot look good, but you're trying not to hurt the person you're in the ring with, unless you got a belt and then you slap him with it. Oh, that was a pretty stiff shot right there. 1, 2, and Flair lays down for him.
It feels like they're really just killing Flair off at this point to me.
Yeah. You've brought that up before, and I know Meltzer brought that up before on his sheets. I don't think you could kill Ric Flair.
Well, it's like they're fucking trying. Well,
maybe they are. I mean, you just, again, you got to think that how many people see Nitro compared to how many people watch a pay-per-view.
No, I'm not arguing that, but just, squashing his head after, he gets the Horseman spot and then he's out. I get it. But then he gets the revenge match at Halloween Havoc and he loses the match, but still sort of wins the war by smashing the belt in his face. And here, Hennig gets the win, and it's kind of insinuated on television because he's not in the 60-man battle royal in a minute and he's not on TV the next night, but it's represented that, hey, he's injured and he's going to be out for a few weeks. So it feels like they're doing everything they can to push Kurt up and to push Rick down.
Well, maybe the thought was that Kurt needed more pushing up than when Flair could certainly survive being pushed down.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, he would go on to be world champ many times after this. It's just interesting that, at this time, it feels like we're leading towards some problems between Flair and Bischoff. And we've talked about that before with the big return in the fall of 98, but we're on our way to some real problems. He's going to work a program after the first of the year with Bret Hart, but it's easy to see why Flair could be frustrated. You know, he used to sort of run this promotion and he was the booker, and now he's not just a performer, but he's not in the world title picture. He's in the United States picture, even though he's getting really, really good reactions. His push is just not in line with that. And people argue it's because of, you know, his age or whatever.
That could be part of it, but let me ask you, do you always, if you have a Ric Flair on your roster, do you always, without fail, put him in the world title picture?
I mean, I think you put him in the world title picture, or you give him another like heated issue. Like this doesn't need to be for the United States title, I guess is what I'm saying. This can be a blood feud with Kurt and Rick without the United States title. And it still matters because you turned my group down. You turned on us. You smashed my head in the cage. Fuck the belt. I want to beat you because you're an asshole.
Yeah. But aren't you making the U.S. title mean something if you've got Flair and Hennig in the mix for it?
You win. You're right. So here's Michael Buffer. Let's go ahead and have you take over from here, Tony.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the Palace of Auburn Hills, where the bad boys of the NBA, the Detroit Pistons, have ruled the roost. And now if I can read my card here, we'll let everybody know that I am getting $3,000 per sentence. So I'm going to stretch it out here to say that this 60-man, 3-ring battle royal, and the winner will get a world heavyweight title shot. Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness one of the biggest clusterfucks, if I can use this Tony Schiavone term, in the history of pro wrestling. And now, for the millions of slapdicks all around the world, let me change my card here. We want to know if you're ready. I don't need to read these rules. If you don't know what a battle royal is by now, you are a dumb fuck. Do you know how much you got paid here?
Do you know?
Probably like $10,000.
How amazing is that? I mean,
yeah.
Show up, iron your tux, blow dry your hair, get out that Aquanet, read a couple of cue cards. Look at the fans leaving. They're like, we know what's coming in this shit. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Let's get ready to rumble, motherfuckers.
You know,
and of course, we take his shot. We don't take the fans responding.
Well, you got to get your money's worth. I mean, you're paying for that beautiful face, right?
Millie's watching around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Say it, Michael. Come on. The fuck? How long has he been in the ring?
38 minutes. Turns out he just won the battle royal. Michael Buffer won the 1997 World War III. So, hey, we're going to get a rapid fire entrance here for wrestlers. I need you to do an impression for each one. What you think they're thinking on their way to the ring. Rapid fire. What's going through their mind as they approach the ring for World War III, 1997. 60 different wrestlers. Here we go.
All right. I don't have any Red Bull in me, but holy shit, you dumbasses. I get to fuck Kimberly tonight. I'll keep walking. And this is just another one of my 3,000 gimmicks. I have no idea what I'm doing in this thing, but the girl looks good. Fuck me. I'm going to fuck you. Who the fuck am I? Who gives a shit? Oh, I don't want to say anything there. And I'm one of the baddest asses in the world, and I look like a fucking skeleton. Oh my God. Public enemy number 1 and 2, David Taylor is stealing the paycheck. Oh, there is Norman Smiley, Louis Spicoli on drugs. And now making his way to the ring, I've got probably the biggest turds of anybody here, but they're showing my dick. My God. Was that Chris Adams?
Yeah.
Holy shit. There's a star to be. Pretty soon they'll make me take my mask off. Yeah, I ain't worth a shit. Yeah, suckers got to know if Schiavone sells a t-shirt, I'm going to want part of it. Woo, what am I doing with these two guys? Finger licking. Oh, I'll have a podcast for 3 weeks. And Ernest Miller, Brad Armstrong, God bless him. Oh, is that Silver King? Yep. Mortis. Boy, these are too far. Oh, Eddie, God bless you. Who the fuck is that? Who kept Prince Ikea? I've had more gimmicks than the big boss man. Oh my God. Kendall Windham and Rey Mysterio Jr.
How would you describe
Tell
him?
Matt Coon I'm looking out for his ass. Oh, that's a pumpkin. Yeah. Talk about a shitty gimmick. Whoa. And speaking of shitty gimmicks, and at the end, another one of the Armstrong brothers. Is that it?
That's it for now. That's
well, fuck, that sucked. They came out too fast.
Do you know who Luke Gallows is? He's a part of the club at the WWE now. He and Carl Anderson.
Yeah. Gallows and Anderson, right?
Yeah. He lives over in your neck of the woods. Well,
He does?
supposedly, yeah, he lives right outside of Atlanta. He's got a tattoo shop. Hey, hypothetically, what would it take for you to get a tattoo at Luke Gallows' shop? You live in Atlanta.
I'd get one in a heartbeat.
Is this real?
Yeah.
Okay. What are you doing Wednesday?
Wednesday?
Yeah.
Nothing that I know of.
Can I take you to Luke Gallows tattoo shop and get you tattooed on Facebook Live this Wednesday, right before Thanksgiving?
You're going to be in town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe this is a real thing. I'm going to slide in those DMs and let them know we're coming by. We got to think about, hey, tweet us. We want to know, what should Tony Schiavone get tattooed this week at Luke Gallows tattoo shop? You probably know all about it. Follow Luke Gallows. He's going to give you all the details. And, we want to know, what do you want Tony to get tattooed? Tweet us. He is at Tony Schiavone 24. I am at Hey, it's Conrad. And, what's Macho Man thinking on his way to the ring here?
Yeah. He's thinking, what the fuck am I doing with this lackey? Ha ha ha. Coming to the ring. Oh boy. Now they're all wearing 6.
Let me give it a shout
Sean
out.
Waltman here.
It's the Painted Gypsy Tattoo Parlor, and it's in Conyers, Georgia. So
Conyers a long way from here.
if you're in Conyers, that's your hookup. That's where you need to go. The Painted Gypsy Tattoo Parlor.
Now, is Gallows going to be there, or is he going to have one of his people do it? He's got to be there.
Would it make you happy if he was overseeing said tattoo?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know what I want my tattoo to say anyway.
What is it? What do you want?
I want it to be the KISS logo.
Oh, that's disappointing.
That's boring as hell, isn't it?
I was hoping you'd get like a tattoo, like the low key big hog or something.
Or slapdick.
Well, I didn't imagine you would do that one.
Or how about I love Conrad?
No, let's not do that. We're going to jinx our 1 year
about-
anniversary.
How about Tom Zink? Da, 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 da. How about that?
What about finger licking, like right above the pubic region?
Listen, it's going to be on is this going to hurt? I want it to be on a place where it's not going to hurt.
Put it on your butt and put lowest rules. All right. So the match is getting started. We've got 3 rings here. I think most people watching this back in the day probably watched it on a television set that was 40 inches or smaller. Yeah. There were some big, floor top models before that, but lots of people had like those big squared off Sony TVs that weighed 900 pounds. You couldn't see shit on these things. Cause you know it?
No, you could not. And the ring 1, ring 2, and ring 3.
What the fuck is Nick Patrick doing in the ring? Is that necessary?
No, usually there's a referee at every ring on the outside
to monitor when people are falling. And you see like Mickey J in the background, but yeah,
right.
not Tom Zink. Nick Patrick is fucking in the middle of the ring. I don't understand.
I don't understand it either, but there you go. And thank goodness we have thrown out a couple of luchadors already.
These guys have no idea what they're doing, but they're all getting paid. And I tweeted that to Eric Bischoff the other day. Actually, I didn't tweet it to him. People tagged him, but, I made the observation that 60 different guys are here in 3 rings for 1 match. It draws 0 buys. No one gives a damn, but 60 guys got paid. It feels like you've got 60 paydays here really for no reason. Like, I'm not saying this to be ugly, cause I love the guy, but who the fuck came to see Norman Smiley?
I get that, but I don't know if you can call it paydays as much as a lot of the guys were on guarantees, right? And you had to work them.
Well, but don't you imagine that some of these guys wanted a pay-per-view bonus? Do you think Randy Savage is out here and is just going to work for house show money if it's a fucking pay-per-view?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Also, can I, my goodness, aren't there some other rings? Thank you very much.
Yeah. See, there you go. There's 2 rings that people have been fighting this entire time. We didn't see them. That's my point.
Right.
is at home. We can't see any of this. And if you're there live, you can't see shit either. And the reason we got on Luke Gallows and tattoos is Luke Gallows recently said that a battle royal is basically exchanging forearms with your good brother.
Yeah, that's what it is. There has never been, and I'll say it again, never been a good battle royal. It may get exciting down at the end when you got a couple of guys left and there's some sort of storyline between them and maybe a guy turns on a friend or something like that. But in the early parts, and we're back on, what ring are we on here?
I mean, are they numbered? I don't know. The one with Scott Hall. Here's what I found was
thank
funny.
you. Ring 1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig Leathers, for waking up in your chair. All right.
Scott Hall just threw out El Dandy, and I don't know about you, but going into this, I thought El Dandy was on the short list of guys who could have went all the way.
He could have gone all the way, but thank God he didn't.
Who the fuck are you to doubt El Dandy? El Dandy is a goddamn national treasure.
Yeah, well, you know what he can do?
Yeah, I know what he can do, but I'm not going to say it. It got heat last time I said it.
Okay. This is ring number, I guess, number 1, number 2. I don't know where we are. I have no idea where we are, and nobody does either. Is that, who's that on the left? Who is that in the upper right-hand corner with the blonde hair?
That's Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
He's smoking weed with Brutus the Barber Beefcake somewhere right now.
I didn't see Greg the Hammer Valentine get in.
Have you seen that photo that everybody's floating around of Greg the Hammer Valentine sitting in a recliner next to Brutus the Barber Beefcake? The guys aren't wearing their shirts. They're drinking beer, just chilling, watching TV, and somebody took a picture of them.
No.
Go out of your way to find it. I get tagged in it all the time because it has Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake in it. But what's funny is so many people, like, that photo was out probably 6 or 8 weeks before somebody finally said, hey, I think there's a Photoshop here, because it's very evident that Greg the Hammer Valentine has a weed pipe in his hand. Like, he's definitely got a marijuana smoking device in his hand. It's a glass pipe, no doubt about it. But they have photoshopped it out and instead just dropped a remote in his hand, but he's holding it in the most unnatural way. I know you can see me right now. He's holding the remote like this. Like, who holds a remote like this? Nobody holds a remote like this. However,
no one even holds their phone.
Look at what
like
I'm doing now. See what I'm doing now? Like, that makes sense. I'm not changing channels. No, I'm trying not to burn my fucking fingers. And that's the way Greg the Hammer Valentine was holding the photo. So it's been passed around everywhere. These guys are just, doing drugs on camera. Not there's a big deal. I mean, roll tide. They could have been in California. I don't know.
Right.
But,
Colorado, somewhere like that. Absolutely.
Sure. Whatevs.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious that it's out there 2 months before somebody's like, hey, wait a minute. I'm like, how did you not see that day one, dude? Brutus the Barber Beefcake has nipple piercings too. So he and Van Hammer have a lot in common.
All right. So I think this commentary and all this talk that we're having right now is much more interesting than
forearm. Hey, let's call it then. Let's just call it. Let's call it straight.
Want to call it straight?
Yeah. Forearm by Ernest Miller.
All right.
Armstrong goes out.
Brad Armstrong. But Brad Armstrong says, absolutely not. I'm going to hop
forearm
back in.
by Ernest Miller. Kick. Forearm.
Yes.
Forearm by Booker T.
Yes. And a Valentine choking Ming.
Forearm.
Forearm by Booker T.
Forearm.
Chop.
Kick.
Elbow.
Forearm.
Chop.
Bingo.
Chop.
Forearm.
Silver King, your ass going out. No, across the top.
Forearm.
Oh, Silver King is gone.
Man, Silver King sold the shit out of that high kick from Booker T. I don't know if he had a choice, but it was awesome.
Yes, sir.
Forearm.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Forearm.
On Chris Adams.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan thinking about abandoning Sean Mooney.
God bless him.
There's Ultimo Dragon working his ass off down here. Steve Regal just kicked him.
When you got to do your podcast on a cell phone driving your car, you know that you're not worried about your fucking podcast. Just thought. Okay.
Tweet it to my face, tough guy. He can't even be mad at you because I believe you made the finest Jim Duggan specialty tape in history. Did you not?
Ever.
It's the best Jim
Coliseum videos. Coliseum videos of all time. Prince Iakea getting pulled by the hair and cornholed at the same time. And now here comes Raph holding on.
By the way, it was Cyclope here who was dressed up like Halloween.
Okay, Cyclope.
Flair wasn't in the match due to his injury. Conan couldn't make it because of tendonitis in the foot. Scott Norton was not in the match because of the knee. Kevin Nash wasn't in the match because of the knee.
Yeah. One would think that in a 3-ring battle royal, which is a clusterfuck from the beginning, that you would have to have a plan on shooting this thing.
Well,
there obviously was not a plan.
To me, this feels like, okay, the WWF does their Royal Rumble in January with 30 guys. Fuck them. Let's go 60 guys in 3 rings, and let's do it 2 months before they do it. We'll beat them to the punch without any real thought for it. How's this going to fucking look?
Yeah. Well, that's right. How's it go? It sounds good on paper, right? How many things sounded good on paper in a booking committee's?
Renegades out there, not looking happy with life. We've got lots of names on here we don't normally see, including Bobby Blaze, who was the last entrant into the ring that you accidentally referred to as another Armstrong. What's your favorite Bobby Blaze match?
Did I call any Bobby Blaze? There goes Yuji Nagata out. Did I call any Bobby Blaze matches?
Forearm.
Midsection.
Forearm.
Uppercut.
Forearm.
I tell you, Chris Adams, who was at one time a pretty big star, getting into it.
What'd you think of Bobby Blaze?
I was thinking that I don't even know who the fuck he is.
He listens to the podcast.
Oh, hey, Bobby. Great guy. I love you. Bobby, you were underused.
Oh, I love you for that. What about
you should have gone over, Bobby.
Which one of the Villanos was your favorite, or Villanos? 4 or 5?
It was 4.
Really? What was your favorite thing about 4? What do you think 4 had that 5 was missing?
I understood that Villano 4 had only one testicle.
Really?
Yeah. So
did you learn that the easy way or the hard way?
I just thought a guy working with one testicle, to me, in my book, was a pretty tough guy.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting is he was 4, but he really should have been Uno. Am I right?
Yeah. Right. And then you go, cause Villano, I mean, really, realistically, if he is Uno, Villano 4 should have had 4 nuts.
That's what I'm saying. Right.
Yeah.
And Villano 5, I mean, at this point, it's time to just join the circus, right? I mean, I know that Flair used to say,
buddy,
you're
watching the circus right now. Right.
I feel like we are.
Yes,
it's interesting that, Macho Man is here in this clusterfuck of a match. Of course, we covered the First World War, which was World War 1995. And that's where Macho Man has come in and then won the world title in the match. And there was lots of political maneuvering. You can hear that in our archives over at WHWmonday.com. I don't know why you would want to hear about another World War III, but it's there if you'd be interested. But 2 years later, it feels like he's a little lost in the shuffle. He had one hell of a feud with DDP this year, but he's nowhere near the title picture at this point.
And this battle royal, as bad as it is, I mean, what's the star power in this battle royal?
I mean, there's a lot. Let's run through the list again. We've got DDP, Ray Traylor, Alex Wright, Disco Inferno, Ming, Villano 4 and 5, Chris Benoit, David Finlay, La Parka, Regal, Public Enemy, Taylor, Ultimo Dragon, Norman Smiley, Louis Piccoli, Hector Garza, Liz Mark Jr., The Giant, Chris Adams, Greg Valentine, Nagata, Chris Jericho, Guerrera, Wrath, Harlem Heat, Steiners, Jim Duggan, Hugh Morris, Lex Luger, Ernest the Cat Miller, Brad Armstrong, Silver King, Prince Ikea, Mortis, Barbarian, Eddie Guerrero, Damien, Barry Darso, Dean Malenko, Vincent, John Nord, Kendall Wyndham, Dandy, Rey Mysterio Jr., Cyclope, which was still dressed up like Halloween, McMichael, Renegade, Chavo Guerrero, Super Callow, Glacier, Bobby Blaze, Marcus Bagwell, Kurt Hennig, and Randy Savage.
Oh, where's Hogan? Where's Flair?
Flair's injured. He's got a knee
All right.
issue.
I just think that
Meltzer wrote, for a company with more talent depth than perhaps any wrestling company in history, there's no excuse to present a lineup that appeared going in to be so weak on paper as WCW did for World War III.
thank you. He's right.
With the 3-ring 60-man battle royal gimmick, which has never worked in the past from a television standpoint on top, and too many of the heavy hitters off the undercard, it was a poor show from a company with far too much talent to have an excuse for such a card. It wasn't as if the big names were getting a lot of heat while shortcutting their way through bad matches. It was a lot of people who weren't getting over in their position, above their league. But from a working and perception standpoint, and the crowd responding in kind, the battle royal itself was shot better than the distracting 3-ring, 20-minute long test patterns with multiple announce teams from the previous 2 years, but the match itself may have been the worst of the 3. Certainly it was the most uneventful, with one slim fabric of storyline presented, the constant near eliminations of Rey Mysterio Jr., and the ball was even dropped on that one as he went out before the finals and the cameras didn't catch it, nor did the announcers notice when he was eliminated after all the teases. Of course, the finish was the same as last year. I didn't even notice until he mentioned it here that you guys, that does make sense. You guys did multiple commentary teams, one for each ring, but this year you did away with that. That's at least a step in the right direction, right?
I like the multiple commentary teams. I know you've shit on it before, and probably Meltzer had, but I liked it. I like that War Games or that World War III much better than I did this one.
Well, this one sucks. Everything about this one sucks. And it's so interesting to me that this is one of the worst. I mean, you could probably make an argument. This is the worst WCW pay-per-view of the year. Could you? I mean, there's a Sturgis show in there. This might be the worst of 97. No, sold out. Never mind.
Yeah. Sold out 97 Cedar Rapids.
I was just going to say, it's interesting that, the worst is the month before your biggest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And it's almost as if, as far as the, and I'm not saying booking committee, or let's say hierarchy of WCW, this is a throwaway. We're looking ahead. Let's see if we can get some money out of this. Doesn't make a fuck. Let's see, where are we here? Savage in your ring 1 and Kurt Hennig. Alex Wright, for crying out loud, is still in ring 3. And in ring 4, we've got Juventud Guerrera up on somebody's shoulders, and we have no idea who's going out. There's Ernest Miller and the Iceman, Dean Malenko, in the bottom. Malenko very close to being pushed out by Ernest Miller. Keep me abreast there, Conrad, as I'm looking. Roll! Did he go over the top?
Dean Malenko has been eliminated.
Thank you very much. Keep me abreast on what's going on. There you see James Vandenberg up. He's got Mortis. He's got Wrath, I believe, in his grasp. Lex Luger still in the ring in ring 2. He hasn't really done fuck all, but there you go. Diamond Dallas Page is taking off his athletic tape. Still trying to take off his athletic tape. He's pulling his athletic tape down around his ass, and he's finally got that athletic tape off. Yeah, the Barbarian has seen enough. There goes Ernest Miller. He's gone.
Somebody call his mama.
And then up in the upper right-hand corner, the Giant selling the arm.
Constipated. Looking for Tony Schiavone's room right now.
He never was constipated, and I know that for sure.
Hypothetically, how big do you think the Giant's hemorrhoids would have been?
Oh my God. He could probably braid them hanging down so far.
Braid them? Oh my gosh. I was going to say,
I always thought if you get 3 hemorrhoids, you could braid them, and they probably wouldn't hurt as badly.
I wondered if around this time, if Elion used one to float over. You don't think?
Oh, there you see upper left-hand corner. Who is going to go out here? No! Rey Mysterio Jr. will not go out. No, he's on the bottom. They can kick him out. Is he out? Big Bubba and his gimmick is out. There goes Repo Man.
How about Rey Mysterio hanging on for dear life? This is kind of fun here. Hanging on to the ring skirt, trying to push up. The ring we're seeing underneath here is actually made of wood. We're used to seeing that at that point being steel. When did WCW or did they ever switch from wood to steel there?
They never switched from wood to steel. I always thought wood gave it more of a give.
Oh, for sure.
Safer for the boys. Yeah, two gimmicks here. Mortis and Alex Wright. There they go.
That's a different
Down
kind of
they
tag
go.
team action. You know, that Eiffel Tower was a little different than the one Klondike would have enjoyed.
Damn right.
This is kind of fun here, Ming and Giant, because all the fans know Ming's a badass.
Exactly. Now, the way it looks, are they the last two men standing?
Well, it'd make you think that because we can't
Yeah, I
see the
know.
other two fucking rings.
Exactly. There are two other rings. There are plenty of guys. It looks like, oh, thank you very much. We still have, well, you see Scott Steiner out in ring number 1. Ring number 2, Luger's still walking around, double axe handle, forearm below. And there goes Stevie Ray to the eyes because suckers got to know. Out he goes. Whoa. On the floor. And meanwhile, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Scott Hall, Buff Bagwell, backing in. Was this all? It's all NWO ring here? And someone's trying to tell me that Vincent is still in there? What is wrong with us? So in ring 1, it's all NWO. In ring 3, it's the Giant. In ring 2, you got Luger, Scott, Rick Steiner. Who else in there? Stevie Ray? No, that's Booker T and Diamond Dallas Page. So now an interesting storyline is developed here, right? The NWO staying together as a team. But there's going to have to be one man. So what's going to happen? Who's going to turn on whom here? And now Randy Anderson says, if you guys, and Billy Silverman says, if you guys are not going to do anything, well, then I'm going to go out. If you guys are not going to do anything, you guys need to go in ring 1 or ring 2. So we get down to the bottom now. It's been a big clusterfuck, worthless since then. But now, a little bit of a storyline here. You come in here. No, you come in here. We'll throw you ass out if you come in here. No, we're going to stay here. And Luger and Booker T and Scott Steiner and Diamond Dallas Page had enough. And the fans are really into it. And now Conrad, forearm, 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 forearm.
I mean, that's really what it is. It's just forearm, 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 forearm. I mean, it was a great call by Luke Gallows.
Yeah, it really was. And now choking Hennig, a save by the Macho Man Randy Savage. So now they all have gotten in ring 1. Everybody. Thank God we don't have to worry about another ring. Anybody even thrown out yet? Diamond Dallas Page still into it. He and the Macho Man going at it again. Oh, Page with a great working punch. Lord of mercy.
Oh, no more fuck money for Vincent. He's out of here.
Thank God. Get rid of his ass.
He's headed straight to the Olive Garden. Get that meat sauce, baby.
Oh, good.
Who's the most badass dude in the ring right now, and why is it Rick Steiner?
Yeah, Rick Steiner. Rick Steiner could snatch a hold on anybody, including the Giant right now. And he's trying to send out, who is this, Buff Bagwell? No, Scott Hall. There's Bagwell with a rake to the eyes. Booker T is out. You know, they're all given a number, right?
That's how they exit.
How they exit, right.
Right. You go after him.
And a lot of times it doesn't go according to plan. But now, and here's the storyline here. We have how many members of the NWO? 1, 2, 3, 4 members of the NWO remaining. Yeah. Why don't you mug for the camera, you fucking dumbass? In the middle of a fight. Giant with the double coconuts. You know, the only thing I'm thinking right now is I'm doing this now and I'm doing that back then.
What's that?
When is it gonna fucking end? When are they gonna put me out of my misery?
It feels like the longest fucking match in history, does it not?
It does. They've had to go. How many minutes they go? They had to go 30,
Forearm.
30 plus.
I mean, I know they're punches, but still. Punch.
Yeah, it had to be a 30-minute match.
It is. It's 30 minutes almost on the nose.
Oh my God. Now Luger's going to go out and Hennig could go out as well. The Giant's going to send Buff Bagwell out. There goes Buff.
What a clusterfuck as the Giant is trying to hit his cast, which doesn't make any sense. Hurts himself. Kurt is out. Lex is out. And we're getting down to the nitty gritty. We've got the Macho Man Randy Savage, Diamond Dallas Page, Scott Hall, and the Giant as the last remaining. And of course, for absolutely no reason whatsoever, we have a referee in the ring.
Would have been funny if we'd have had Vincent Seco play. I don't know who else. Silver King.
And El fucking Dandy. Yeah, El Dandy in there.
And Bobby Blaze.
Who's a great guy.
Still been in there.
Great guy.
Yeah, great guy.
They screwed him.
Yeah. They sure did. Oh man. Page with a great right hand. Oh, Diamond Cutter. Put the bang on him. Oh, but a jawbreaker by the Macho Man Randy Savage. So now we've got two members of the NWO, two members of WCW, Macho Man going up top. Look at this. Oh, Giant protecting Scott Hall that time by hitting his knees first and standing in front of the Macho Man Randy Savage. Great spot. Really a shitty match, but a great spot here. Woo.
I love that.
I do too.
Macho Man always knew how to work with a big guy. His matches with Andre, his matches with the Giant. That Diamond Cutter, look at that crowd react to that, man.
Oh, absolutely. Got the signs and everything.
We're about 11 months from his main event with Goldberg or Halloween Havoc. And the Giant is not allowing DDP to just roll Macho Man out. Nope. He's calling for the choke slam with the broken hand.
You're seeing here why the Macho Man was a businessman. Now you talk about politics and ego and he didn't want to do this. He didn't want to do that. Bullshit, man. Randy Savage was one of the best. He took a Diamond Cutter. He took a choke slam.
Getting everybody over at every turn.
Exactly right.
They just roll him out, not over the top, just roll him to the floor. And I guess they're going to call that good enough here, right?
I guess so. Yeah. And now Scott Hall pulls himself up. He's got two to contend with. You know what? This match has sucked, but the end of it's been pretty good. Some pretty good stuff going on.
I can tell you haven't watched this week, have you?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So what's about to happen?
I have no idea.
That's what I thought.
I fast forwarded through a lot.
Here we go. All of a sudden, as Scott Hall's going to make a retreat,
Yeah.
he's going to take some time and then he's going to go ahead and get everybody ready and throw to the entrance because we had Kevin Nash who was absent and he's the hometown boy here in Detroit. And when he throws it to the front, you just know it's going to be Kevin Nash, Big Sexy himself, his tag team partner with the Outsiders, but instead showing up just in time to make sure Bischoff has that $600,000 guarantee for every single pay-per-view show. Even though I wasn't advertised, I still want you to pay me, brother. It's Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
When's he going to come out?
Well, eventually. He's waiting for the right tone of his music instead of the big surprise. Of course, on the network, they play different music. So roll tide on that.
Right.
What'd you think of Hogan inserting himself into the pay-per-view when he hasn't been advertised? So he's going to get a big piece of the proceeds. And you want to know why Six was selling so many t-shirts? Well, Macho Man's walking to the ring carrying it. Hogan's coming out wearing it. It's basically the NWO shirt, just with a 6-ball, the billiard ball. So it's over like Rover. All the guys are putting it over. They feel bad for their fallen comrade. And now here's Hogan 1 month prior to the biggest show in WCW history, stealing another payday and bailing out his main man, Scott Hall.
All right. Stealing another payday. Whatever. Hogan coming in, nothing wrong with it.
Okay, but let's run through it. The show sold out and it had a terrible buy rate. Wouldn't it have it sold out without Hogan being advertised? Wouldn't it have done a bigger buy rate had you promoted that Hogan was on the show?
Yeah, no question.
So now you don't
argue with that.
You don't get the benefit of him being able to draw you any more money because he wasn't working the date, and now he is working the date. So he's getting paid, but you're not getting the benefit of him being there. How is that not stealing a payday?
I get you. How much did he get paid? Is that
$600,000
for coming in here at the very end?
The gate's 400. So, that's before they paid rent and security and just their hard costs. So right. Hogan just put them in the red. They're in the red right now.
Okay. Well, who do you blame, Hogan or Bischoff on that?
Well, one guy sold it and another guy bought it. So do you blame the guy selling it or do you blame the guy buying it?
I blame the guy buying it.
I got 600 grand, brother.
Let me hoist up my britches here.
You need to go north, man. I made more than you did this whole fucking year tonight. I'm going to come in here, throw 19 punches, 18 kicks, and get my fucking cash, brother. To be clear, Hogan gets a bad rap, and a lot of people say that, oh, if they would have gotten rid of Hogan, there would have been more money to bring in this guy or that guy. That's not true. Hogan's the biggest draw in the business. Without Hogan, there's less money to go around. I really do believe that Hogan makes everybody on the card more money. I don't think that's debatable. However, in this instance, you didn't even promote him. Like, you're not saying, and Hulk Hogan, and look at here, call it.
Yeah. Here comes a 6'10" Sting.
Wait, hang on. Do it like we need it.
Okay. Here comes a 6'10" Sting. He's coming for the rafters. Look how tall he is. Holy shit. He's grown about 7 inches since we saw him last. And I've got to put him over. Oh God, it's Sting. He's got the baseball bat. He hits the Giant. The Giant is out.
Sting is stepping over the top rope and has different colored hair.
And you know what? I had to sell it to Sting. Oh, the baseball bat on the back. And the winner is Scott Hall. Scott Hall will go on to vie for the world title, but Sting wants a part of him. Sting with a baseball bat. What's he doing, Conrad? What the fuck are they doing? He is going to hit Scott Hall with a baseball bat. By this time, no one's buying it except me as the announcer. So who's got to look like the dumbass here?
Well, that'd be you.
Thank you. Well,
now let me just put over too, by the way, that even though Hogan was only in the match for a couple of minutes, look how well Hogan's moving around here. You know, obviously we know Hogan has been plagued by back and hip injuries for years, and taking bumps on the floor probably didn't help, but he just took a bump on the floor, and look at the way he's just going to scoot back in the ring. Like that's not the same Hogan that we saw towards the end of his career. And it shows you how quickly his health deteriorated. Obviously, given that leg drop so many times in the 80s, gave him significant back problems. But man, he's hopping and skipping around here like a youngster compared to the way we would see him move just a few years after this. It just shows you how quickly this business can sneak up on you.
Oh yeah. He's not the only one. So again, we have an angle at the end of a pay-per-view.
I actually like this. You know, I know that in execution, it probably could have been done better, but people were expecting Kevin Nash in his hometown. It does make sense for Kevin Nash to be the one to sort of help Scott Hall. It might be a little overbooked and convoluted. It is silly that you had to sell it like you didn't notice he's stepping over the top rope and all this.
Yeah. Right.
And you know, it makes sense for Hogan to be celebrating here. his victory over WCW because they've just dominated all the top stars once again. And they're on their way to the biggest pay-per-view with Hogan finally getting his comeuppance, but it doesn't make any promote the fucking thing. But again, in logic, it doesn't make any sense. Why would he be competing in a match for a title shot? He is the champion.
Exactly. Well, and I guess it's a blessing. Mine just froze.
Well,
you
don't have to see the rest.
Yeah.
We just
diamond. Oh, right now I've seen a diamond cutter, a Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah. We just saw that just a minute ago, but still and I know a lot of people may have had a problem with that at the time, but I didn't. It gets over that he's a super heel doing their own moves on a lifeless guy. In the end, that's in the books, boys and girls. You know what's coming next for us. Our next major pay-per-view here from 1997 is going to be Starrcade 97, the biggest pay-per-view in WCW history. And we're going to cover it for you coming up here in December. So stay tuned next month right here at WHWMonday.com. And, we'll have that for you. But what we want to do now is cruise over to Facebook and give you fans an opportunity to ask Tony some questions rapid fire. Tony, are you ready?
Let's go, baby.
Simon wants to know, why was Roddy Piper on the poster, yet he wasn't on the card?
Because we're WCW, buddy.
Why wasn't Sting on the show?
They wanted to hold off Sting until Starrcade.
Cody had the same question we did. Why were the referees inside the ring for World War III?
Yeah, there's no answer for that. No answer for that at all.
Joey wants to know, why is this a thing?
Because if this wasn't a thing, Jody, something else would be a thing. Something's always got to be a thing, you know?
Whose idea was the World War III match in the first place? That's from Quantel.
Yeah, that was Kevin Sullivan's idea.
Brian wants to know, why didn't each subsequent World War go up a number, like World War IV, World War V?
Because there have only been 2 world wars until then, and we wanted to make sure this was the next one in line.
I mean, I guess the question though is, if 95 was 3, would 96 not be 4 and 97 not be 5?
No, it would be World War III 96.
No, I mean, that's what it did. We just get that question a lot, which is kind of interesting.
Really? Is that what you're worrying about? Jesus Christ.
No, I'm not. I'm worried about how to carry your ass through a 3-hour show. I mean, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Dusty wants to know, Mongo McMichael sucked on commentary as well as in the ring. What was the talk amongst the boys when he got the Nitro gig with no experience?
As far as an announcer is concerned?
Yeah, or just being in a featured spot on the show.
Okay. I think he had a lot of heat with the boys. I know he had a lot of heat with the boys. Not necessarily because of the commentary, but because of being able to wrestle, being put in a spot to where he was a top wrestler.
What took so long for Chris Adams to get another shot here with WCW? That's from Will.
Yeah, Will, that's a good question. I can't answer that with the exception of saying I think Chris may have had some heat with Eric Bischoff. Why, I don't know.
Joe wants to know, why wasn't World War III trademarked?
Because we're WCW.
Joe wants to know, when Riggs joined the flock wearing an eye patch, was that a rib towards Pierre the Quebecer?
No, not at all.
I understand that Hogan was booked for Sting at the Starrcade pay-per-view, but why wouldn't the winner of the Battle Royal get a title shot at your biggest pay-per-view? Like the Royal Rumble winner goes to WrestleMania. That's from Christopher.
Yeah, Christopher, that's a good question. In theory, that would be logical, but we had already set up Hogan and Sting for that pay-per-view.
Has a triple box ever been a good idea on a pay-per-view? That's from Jonathan.
Never. And I think we just saw why.
Dustin wants to know, why was Hogan put into a battle royal where the winner met the champion when he was the champion?
To further the NWO angle. I mean, that's logic, right?
Well, I didn't think it made any sense whatsoever. I mean, no, I get the swerve, but
right.
Joe wants to know, any good John Nord stories? We haven't talked about him a lot.
I have none.
Matthew Fowler wants to know, is Conrad finally going to come out?
out to play, out to dinner, out to lunch. I don't know what you're talking about.
Matt Wood wants to know, Tony, did you shit on the floor for your 60th birthday?
I did not, but I shit my pants.
Did you legit shit your pants?
Yeah. I shit my pants all the time.
But
I do.
You just slipped that in like it was no big deal.
Let me say this about all you slapdicks out there, and I'm going to throw you into this, Conrad. Wait till you get 60. Just wait till you get 60.
What, you're shitting?
Because every time your pants win, you got to double check your pants. Just wait. They all laugh at me now, but unless something bad happens to you early in life, guys, you're going to hit this age, and then, of course, I'm going to be 90, but then I'm going to laugh at you with my teeth in a glass beside my bed in the nursing home. I'm going to go, ha, 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 ha. Shit your pants, did you? Ha, 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 ha.
Conrad wants to know, how cold is your steak right now?
Yeah, not only my steak is cold, but Lois is really pissed.
Adam
This is the first time she's cooked dinner in the month of November.
Really?
And I didn't even show up for it. Oh yeah, I didn't even show up for it.
Randall wants to know, why was Disco Inferno never repackaged?
What would you suggest, Randall, you repackage him as?
Gary wants to know, where was Joe Gomez?
At some strip club in Tampa. I don't know.
Josh wants to know, at what point did you realize Alex Wright can't get over even with Deborah?
Probably the first time I saw him.
The first time. Okay.
First time. Yeah.
This is the type of question we expect. Jason wants to know, who in the battle royal had a low key big hog?
Well, that would have been Scott Hall. That would have been the Giant. That probably would have been Diamond Dallas Page.
Hypothetically speaking, if Klondike Bill were to nickname something El Dandy, what would that something be? That's from Andrew.
Okay. That something would have been a very, very hairy, unkempt bush.
My goodness. Dan wants to know, who did the Nasty Boys have to orally pleasure to get their names at the top of the poster, and why was it Hulk Hogan?
Okay. You answered your question.
Adam wants to know, this show sucked, but it can only be saved if Tony will sing that Tom Zink song for us again.
All right. You want me to do it now?
Well, I mean, might as well.
You want to do some background? Dun, 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 dun.
I think Matt Coon will add that in post.
Okay. Tom Zink. Tom Zink. Dun. Let me tell you why. He's the best of all the guys. Tom Zink. Dun. Tom Zink. In the thunder toasty slapper once he's on your tail. He won't quit because he him. There's no such word as fail. Tom Zink. Tom Zink.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That's going to wrap up World War III, 1997. I'd like to say it was fun, but you know, this show sucked. It was not that fun, but we will be back here next week, Thursday, because we're doing something kind of fun this Thursday. It's Thanksgiving, and it's your new Thanksgiving Day tradition. And just like they did 30 years ago, we're going to go relive Starrcade 87 at Chi-Town Heat. It is going to be your new Thanksgiving tradition. It's right here at WHWMonday.com. It's 4:30 Eastern. Check us out. 4:30 Eastern. Put down the turkey leg. Fire up the WWE Network. Start the Starrcade 87 show. Press mute. And then load us up here at WHWMonday.com. And we're going to make you laugh. And a lot of you have been clamoring for some old Jim Crockett promotion stuff. This is about as critical of a show as we could have picked. Am I right, Tony?
That is the eye of the storm right there, buddy. That's a great one.
I'm looking forward to it. All the greats are there. The Road Warriors, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, on down the line, even Dr. Death. Everybody who is anybody with Jim Crockett Promotions is on this card, and we're excited to cover it for you next week. So tell your friends, it's your new Thanksgiving Day tradition, and you might want to check out Facebook towards the end of the week. We've got something a little special for you. It's facebook.com/WHW Monday. Something you won't see anywhere else, and it's pretty timely given what the WWE is going to do this week. We will be back here next week having great fun with you, and we're going to be covering whatever we give you on the poll.
No, Tony and Conrad, they're
yourself.
Excuse me. Early release next week. Live. Scorpion on December 4th. Roll Tide.
Tony, when I look at my clock, I realize it's about that time.
Well, Sting is coming to the ring, and obviously it's not Sting. He looks like he is 6'10", but now coming into the ring, oh my God, it's Bobby Blaze! Bobby Blaze, one of the greats in our sport. Bobby Blaze, one of the most underrated young men ever. Bobby Blaze into the ring. He grabs Sting. He throws him over the top. He grabs Scott Hall. He throws him over the top. The winner of World War III. Next year it'll be World War IV. Then after that it'll be World War V. Then after that it'll be World War VI. Then after that it'll be out of business WCW. The winner, Bobby Blaze. See you next week on What Happened When? Monday on the MLW Radio Network.
WrestleMania weekend's biggest party is coming to Bourbon Street. Don't miss an all-inclusive, all-night party Friday, April 6th. Hosted by Kevin Nash and over 20 other wrestling stars. Enjoy unlimited drinks all night long at the Bourbon Cowboy on Bourbon Street. Throw beads from the balcony. Drink and party with your favorite wrestling stars. Hurry, limited quantities available. Purchase tickets now at pwrshow.com. That's pwrshow.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the MLW Event Center. I'm Sean Mooney, and we're just 3 weeks away from MLW Never Say Never, and we've got 2 new matches for the card. Joey Ryan will be making his MLW debut against MJF, but that's not all. It'll be Ghetto Strong Style versus Chaos as MVP takes on the 6'7" brawler known as Brody King. Plus Matt Riddle versus Filthy Tom Lawler. Santana Garrett will be in action, and a no DQ match featuring John Morrison and Shane Strickland versus Darby Allin and England's most dangerous man, Jimmy Havoc. Get your tickets right now at MLWtickets.com. Tickets start at just $15. Meanwhile, the world of MLW never stops. This week on What Happened When, Tony Schiavone and Conrad Thompson take a look at the Clash of the Champions 29. Lucha Underground is coming back, and the trio at Lucha Talk is all over it with a response to the big news and the reaction from the Lucha community. On the MLWVIP.com exclusive Kevin Sullivan's Hell of a Deal, the guys talk the UWFI, the wrestling gear of The Undertaker and Kevin Nash, referees having characters, and the 1970s Florida wrestling. On the J.J. Dillon Show, Rich and J.J. keep things classy while delving deep into one of the Carolina's most notorious tag teams ever, the Andersons. Catch the J.J. Dillon Show each and every Thursday. And, well, you know, something to wrestle with. Bruce Pritchard does over 4 hours on Bret the Hitman Hart as the original Brother Love, and Conrad Thompson talk about the Hitman's storied career in the WWF. Of course, don't you dare miss Prime Time with Sean Mooney. This week, Diamond Dallas Page stops by talking how he went from a diamond in the rough to a shining star and how he's now changing the world with DDP Yoga. And remember, we're just 3 weeks away from MLW Never Say Never in Orlando. Get your tickets and see this stacked show live at the Gilt Nightclub on December 7th. Tickets available at MLWtickets.com. Now it's time to get back to your favorite MLW Radio podcast.
The world of MLW Radio never stops.